You're watching our live stream of the Weather Network as we follow some tornadic warned storms in Manitoba this hour. My name is Kim McDonald. We've got our storm chaser, Mark Robinson, here. Meteorologist Chris Potter is here as well. I'm going to get into the latest warnings because the warnings keep coming and then dropping because that's how these storms move. As they move, of course, some warnings end and some warnings begin. So most recently, the rural municipality of Tash, including Lorette, Saint-Geneviève, and Landmark, as well as the rural municipality of St. Anne, including Richer or Richer. So the areas involved: Mitchell, Blumenort, Landmark, St. Anne, Dufresne. All of these communities are at risk, or at least in the path of this particular storm. We're going to get into all of the details. But again, Mark, I mean, this is one of those storms. We want people to not watch the storm. Not what you do.
Yes.
If you're not a storm chaser, we want you to take shelter.
Yeah, I mean, any of these storms, keep in mind, the tornado is potentially the most dangerous part of it, but there's so many other dangers within the storm. You're talking about lightning, large hail, high winds, and keep in mind that any sort of good winds above 100, 120 kilometers an hour will start to throw debris around.
Right.
And branches coming down, branches are extremely heavy. Even if they look light, they're actually extraordinarily heavy. A lot of the deaths that we see or the injuries that we see in storms are simply from branches coming down and hitting somebody.
Yeah.
When you're thinking that you're safe, everything's fine, nope, you're actually potentially in the danger of even small branches coming down and hitting you, and those can hurt.
And we've had some flooding with these storms, not these ones in particular, although there is as much as 50 millimeters of rain coming down with this. But the storms that we've seen most recently in Saskatchewan, for example, there's widespread flooding there. There's a lot of humidity in the eastern prairies, which we normally don't see.
Yeah, and when I was out there over the weekend, one of the things that I've noticed was a lot of the fields are extremely soaked. So a lot of those fields have very large ponds in them, which tells me that the ground is extremely wet or simply so dry that it's allowing the water just to come off very quickly. You want a nice balance in the soil moisture.
Yes.
So we got one or got the other. Either way, it's going to produce floods, and this is what has been happening.
I saw a video posted by storm chaser Braden Morrisseau today that had children swimming in flood water. I believe it was in Kipling, Saskatchewan. Do not quote me, but not safe. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure it's fun and when you're 10, but I can't imagine that water is particularly clean. Anyway,
No.
but really the point is, I'm not trying to be a mom here. The point is that there's a lot of flooding.
Yeah, and this is one of the when I was in Brandon, we got the remains of the cells that came through, so that was really pushing this giant shelf cloud. Lots of damage in Saskatchewan, and by the time it got to Brandon, it had really died off, but it still produced enough rain that there was some significant flooding in and around us.
Let's talk a little bit tornado watch versus tornado warning. Manny, maybe you can bring this up full so people can look at it. But again, we've had a tornado watch in place for a while, meaning basically all the ingredients are there for a possible tornado to develop. A warning means it is likely happening. It's been reported, or meteorologists have seen it on radar that there's some rotation on the storm, which is how this was warned. Although both of those things happened a little bit earlier, didn't they? Someone spotted it and captured video of it, as well as we're seeing the rotation on the radar. Yeah,
oftentimes with these storms, you can get a spin up right in the beginning, and that's kind of what happened from the shot that I saw. Fairly weak tornado, it looked like. A little bit of a dust swirl on the ground. Funnel looked like it was halfway to the ground. But keep in mind that a tornado is just a rotating column of air. You don't have to have that perfectly condensed funnel all the way to the ground. It's just a rotating column of air. So if you are seeing a dust swirl on the ground, that is a tornado, even if you can't see the funnel itself.
Okay, and that's good advice. We're a little concerned about rain-wrapped storms in this.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of moisture here, but you get a rain-wrapped tornado, and you can't really see it. It doesn't look like a tornado necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just, it looks like a big wall of gray quite often, because what happens, you've got the whole system, you've got the tornado itself, and there's the core of the storm up in this area, and all the rain begins to wrap all the way around. And when it's in that rain itself, you literally can't see it until it's on top of you. And those can be violent tornadoes. They don't necessarily mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that they've weakened off and there's nothing much left of it. Sometimes these high precipitation supercells can definitely be very strong and produce very strong tornadoes.
I'm going to bring in meteorologist Chris Potter, no stranger to tornadoes because he lives in Barrie, Ontario, which seems to have been a target more than once for these kinds of storms. I know you've been looking at the radar as well and seeing where exactly these are going. I mean, there's multiple cells on this particular map, but there's just one or two that we're really concerned about right now.
Yeah, and I mean, this is basically deja vu for me, guys, and Mark as well, working this past weekend. What's happening here, you think about it, all the ingredients are here. We've known about this for days, really, that this would be yet another opportunity for severe weather and enough indices for the risk of rotating storms, thunderstorms capable of producing tornadoes, but it's widespread. So we're going to be very busy this evening tracking multiple areas. So obviously the one that we've been really concentrating on, Winnipeg, it developed extremely rapidly. I want to show you the visible satellite and the lightning at the same time, just to give you an idea of just how quick it developed. And I'll actually pull it in. This is just the last hour of visible satellite along with the radar, just how quickly that cap burst, and we had that singular supercell develop. Rotation was being picked up by this particular cell, and you know, obviously it was tornado warned, but so far we have not necessarily seen any damage. Mark did remind us that there was a photo, there was a video that showed brief touchdown. Perhaps there was some debris on the ground, and like he mentioned, when you see that on the ground, it's a tornado. It's just a spinning column of air. But where are things going? We'll discuss that quickly first, because once again, this is going to be something that changes with time. So this is, I'm going to do this a little weird. This is going into 6 p.m. local, so the dinner hour, large area of widespread cluster of thunderstorms, losing that ability to be a supercell. I'm just going to have to take this up for 1 second, guys. So if you're talking to me, talk loud just right here. Okay. So within this area going through Saskatchewan, same area that had been absolutely drenched with more than 100 millimeters of rain, Carlisle, Estevan, Sunday, they had wind speeds of over 110 kilometers an hour. They were straight line winds. The activity over Winnipeg, once again, I'm just going to keep going like this. Keep an eye at the top left at the time. I'm basically toggling from 6 to 8, an important time. If you live near Winnipeg, north of it, through Gimli, Sandy Bay, the Interlake region, obviously it's not going to be a time to go outside. We are once again dealing with a widespread severe thunderstorm watch and a widespread tornado watch, which simply put, like Mark said, severe thunderstorms still going to produce damaging wind gusts, possibly above 90 kilometers an hour in the area, all shaded in yellow and orange. I'm going to keep it simple for you. In the orange, it just means that the conditions are favorable for not only severe thunderstorm, but also ones that rotate. Tornadoes, and that's what we're still looking at, that widespread tornado watch. And once again, I'm going to take off the radar here. And once again, this is a full list, so it looks like some new warnings are being popped up right now, and I apologize about my earpiece. Keep popping out. So Moosomin, severe thunderstorm warning, which means conditions are, yes, are occurring right now. Heavy rain is possible, damaging hail. Go inside, regardless of whether it's a tornado warning, like once again is still in place for southeastern Winnipeg. Rotation has dissipated just enough as we continue to look at the actual rotation, but it's still present. So this particular cell is still rotating, but you can see a trend. There's still some rotation being picked up to the southwest as well, towards Brandon. There's also some rotation being picked up Merrifield as well. So these are all warned storms, Kim and Mark, but once again, these aren't tornado warnings. But like Mark, I'm going to ask you, like right off the bat, I mean, you've tracked these storms so many times. You know, you went to the region during the weekend and you saw a lot of great sights, and regardless of whether a tornado touched down, there was still damage from wind, from rain, and hail.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's what we're still looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, the hail, we almost got into baseball to softball hail.
Yeah.
Over in Saskatchewan, I don't remember exactly where it was, but the initial storms in the morning were producing those gigantic hailstones. It could be a very bad swath of hail through there. And then on the Sunday, which was potentially the day that was really going to produce a lot of tornadoes, there was another swath of hail, but again, further to the north. It was a very interesting day to watch. But these ones definitely can produce large hail. Strong winds, absolutely. Even when you have the straight line storms, the more linear storms that we get into later into the evening is sort of what we're expecting. Those can produce winds up to 130 kilometers an hour. There you go. Yes.
Read my mind.
Lansing, Saskatchewan. That's where it was. Yeah, that was just north of where we were. I didn't want to go into these because I didn't have my storm trace car with me, so there's no hail shields. We didn't want to get the car destroyed because that will destroy your car.
Yeah, these are, I think, golf ball sized hailstones. That was what was reported. We have some video of your chase over the weekend. As we look at the massive clouds that you were looking at, these rotating storms, let's talk a little bit about the difference between that setup versus what's going on right now.
Well, the difference between that I've found between what we're sort of seeing now and what we saw sort of over the weekend, if you look at that storm, the bases are extremely high, which tells me immediately it's missing one little ingredient, which is just that touch more moisture at the lowest levels. So the storms weren't as low base as they could have been.
Right.
This one here, now this was near Comer. This one did have low bases, but the problem with that one was that it was all big, long line of storms, so none of them could get particularly isolated, so they really couldn't get that spin up that produced the large damaging tornadoes, but it was still enough to produce large hail. There was some spin in there, lots of rain, lots of lightning. It was very interesting to watch, but that's the one that turned into the gigantic line of storms that swept across the prairies as just after evening.
We're concerned about this storm over Winnipeg because it's an urban center.
Yep.
It's very different to chase storms in the prairies versus it is, say, in southern Ontario, where there are lots of trees, lots of roads, lots of traffic, lots of people. In the prairies, you can see these storms from much farther away. It seems to me that if you are a storm chaser, that it's a safer scenario.
It is in some ways. I mean, keep in mind, like I've often said that you could take a tornado path anywhere from, say, the prairies or from down in Tornado Alley, Oklahoma, Kansas. Take that tornado path, put it into southern Ontario, and it will hit something. Like, no matter what, it will hit something.
Right.
And we're talking about a town, not some isolated farm, about an actual town. That's how densely populated we are. So that's what makes tornadoes in southern Ontario that little bit more dangerous because it's almost likely to hit it. Now, when you look out in the prairies like this one, it's less likely because it's just not as populated. But, when we were in Comber, that tornado or that potential tornado was right in the town. That could have easily touched down. Didn't. But it would have been right in the middle of the town.
Yeah, that's why it can get particularly dangerous. There's our watch and our warning. Again, watch meaning, okay, the watch is up. We could see something happen, something pop up today. The ingredients are there. The warning means a severe thunderstorm could be producing a tornado, whether someone has spotted it or whether it's seen on radar. It's got the same kind of. Do you want to grab that?
Okay. Oh, yep. Sorry.
One of us can grab it. Okay, so again. This part has not changed, I don't think. So the rural municipality of Tash, including Lorette, Saint-Geneviève, and Landmark are still in it, and St. Anne, including Richer, are still in it as well. Again, we're talking about winds 90 to 110 kilometers per hour, up to golf ball sized hail, which is the photo I just showed you, so that's possible. 30 to 50 millimeters of rain as well, and in the path, St. Anne and La Coulee. So if you are in St. Anne or La Coulee, these are the areas of concern right now. That is the direction that the storm is moving.
Yeah, okay, this is what I wanted to really bring up was the radar. Now, what is interesting is that we've had, like, this is just reflectivity, so it's not fully showing how the winds are moving within the storm. I've got my own radar up, I'm taking a look. There is areas of rotation that are moving almost sort of due east, maybe a little bit north now. But what's interesting about them, you've got your rotation, so started in this area, died off, but then it handed off to the next one. The next one moving the same direction, it died off, it handed it off to the next one. So right now, if we just stop the radar just the very last frame, you can kind of get an idea of, you can kind of see right there, like right there is sort of where we're seeing that rotation. It's not really, really strong at the moment, but definitely sort of right in that area, right near the Steinbach region, and again, moving up, I'm going to say actually maybe towards Ross or Richer there, with that rotation going this way. Seen multiple shots of the storms. I'm sort of watching some of the chasers out there, and definitely very low wall clouds. Very different than what I was seeing over the weekend. These ones are tapping into that moisture. There's moisture coming up from South Dakota, and that we go all the way back, goes all the way back down to the Gulf of Mexico, tapping into that moisture. So that's just making it across the border, which is kicking off these ones and allowing those bases to be much lower.
I'm going to throw an analogy at you.
Yes.
Okay. So rather than a 100-meter race,
yes,
this is like A relay. So
Yes.
the one behind it has a little
Yes.
more energy because they haven't
Yep.
been running. So the ones ahead are kind of losing their
Yep.
energy, pass the baton to
That's
the one
right.
behind, they've got strength,
Yeah.
and now they're moving in. And we don't know how many people are in this relay team necessarily.
Exactly. And what we'll get an idea of when the relay team ends as the storms, if we see a bit more storms begin to sort of blow up south of there, start to interfere with that inflow, that's when we could see the storms begin to weaken a little bit, because keep in mind that storms to really get going need that warm, moist air,
Yep.
and storms will produce cold, moist air when they dump all that rain. All the mass that goes somewhere got to come down somewhere. So once it hits the ground and begins to get sucked into, say, the stronger storms, those storms will weaken. That's what we're watching for right now.
Yeah, we've been talking about discrete cells
Yes.
versus a linear storm situation. And these are words that weather people use all the time. Discrete meaning we've got individual cells.
Yes.
Individual storms are moving along. Linear, they've all joined together.
Yes.
And not necessarily rotating, although we could get a rotating storm in a linear line.
Quite often you can. This is very typical of southern Ontario storms, where you get this long line and you'll have little inflow regions, little inflow notches all the way down, and you'll have little spin ups, and you can sometimes, and I've seen them quite literally, one started on top of my car, little tornadoes, and we call those QLCS tornadoes, quasi-linear convective system tornadoes. And those are very typical. So when we see these storms begin to congeal into one gigantic line, it doesn't necessarily mean that the tornado threat is over.
Right.
The straight level winds definitely that danger is ramping up, but we still have the potential for some of those QLCS tornadoes.
Okay, I'm going to bring in meteorologist Chris Potter into the conversation, who's been looking closely at everything that's been going on as well. And yeah, I think that's always the fear, is that the storms keep on going right into the nighttime where people can't see what's going on. I think it gets a little bit scarier once
100%.
the sun sets.
I mean, if it didn't scare you, not knowing what's out there, are you human? You know, not knowing. Mark, you were referring to the rotation being picked up. I pulled it up for you so you can kind of take a look. Just southeast of Winnipeg,
yes.
that rotation was there, and we were looking at it together, and it split. And luckily for Winnipeg, it did split. So they missed out on the worst of the hail, but there still is at least some decent rotation there. So we're still dealing with that warned storm as well. This has been in place for a while now. So there has not been an update to the tornado warning. This is the only one in place right now. But once again, I mean, this is something that develops so quickly in this moisture-rich environment. We had one day of a break from severe weather across the region, and unfortunately, it is basically day 3 in my 4-day rotation here. I've only had one day where we weren't dealing with severe weather, and that was, of course, yesterday. But now we have a very large swath of severe thunderstorm watches, illustrated in yellow. That means conditions are favorable for the development of severe thunderstorms. In red, that represents a severe thunderstorm warning, which means the thunderstorm, which is classified as a severe thunderstorm, capabilities of producing large, damaging hail. We've seen that already with the past couple of days. Damaging winds, we've also seen that. But when we start to see this become more linear and almost becoming more of an MCS, a mesoscale convective system, that will allow these thunderstorms, although, yes, discrete at first, supercell, rotation, once again still being picked up, but it also will allow this to cluster together and once again form more of a line, almost a squall line, like a bow. MCS is possible through the overnight, and what makes this more special, it doesn't really depend on the daytime heating to really keep things going. And like always, as the daytime heating begins to dissipate, we're going to start to lose some of the ingredients for it. But not all, obviously. So this is something that's going to continue through the evening. If you find yourselves with a tornado warning in place, you get the alert on your phone, you're hearing us say it to you, take it seriously. Now is the time, because it's not as bad as it can get over the next few hours, to make a plan. You don't want to panic your kids if you're a parent. You need a plan, though. You have to do it quietly. Trust me, I've been through a tornado and I have had to warn my friends and my family to go into the basement. And that's really the best place to go, away from the windows. You got to think, there's glass. It's not how fast the winds are blowing, it's what they're blowing. So take shelter in a basement at the lowest level possible, interior room, closet, not a car, not a trailer. This is a very large, once again, area of severe thunderstorms, which are almost, I don't want to say a guarantee, but pretty darn close. So if you are in that risk area, especially in red, be prepared. we have a return to all this rich moisture. The instability started to produce was significant. So we're seeing these just explode, especially once again that cell down towards Winnipeg. I mean, it's just exploded. There was rotation, heavy rain, large hail, and there's still hail. There's still rotation. So once again, that cell, as it migrates towards the north, although it's losing a little bit of organization, it's still heading towards the north. I'll have to double check whether it's 40, 50 kilometers an hour. There's also some activity down moving towards Brandon. This one, once again, has shown signs of rotation as it continues to build up. And once again, I apologize if I mispronounce some of these towns. I'm from Nova Scotia. Sometimes we just pronounce what we read. So I do apologize about that. This is a serious situation, though. All these severe thunderstorm watches and warnings, you treat them as such. It's severe weather. Whether or not it's as, amazing, we have a tornado, because as meteorologists or weather enthusiasts, Mark, you're guilty of it too. Kim, you're guilty of it too. You kind of get excited about the risk of tornadoes, but as Mark pointed out, there's so many more risks here that we have to talk about and we'll continue to talk about, but just look how wide of a swath this is with pockets of individual thunderstorms, some of which are discrete and not. This will all come together, coalesce, if you will, and create a different set of issues through the overnight. And Mark, I think you should talk to Kim with it while I start to do a little analysis in between.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
We were talking about that large hail. We showed the photo of the large hail. I want to just go to Brayden Morrisseau, who is a storm chaser in the field, who was out there in that hail and that kind of on Sunday. So let's check in with Brayden from Sunday. I feel like we have a little bit of a look live here.
I'm currently near Lampman, Saskatchewan, where some really big hail is falling. We're getting up to tennis ball sized hail here. This guy's car, he's taking hailstones right now. We're armored though. We have the Line-X truck bedding on here. We have a 1/2-inch polycarbonate windshield so you could throw hail right at that and it wouldn't break. We're watching our storm right now. It's still intensifying. That risk for tornadoes is increasing as this storm continues to strengthen. So make sure to heed those watches and warnings as they're being issued for this storm. For the Weather Network, I'm Brayden Morrisseau.
Okay, that was Sunday. Just an example of the kind of hail that these storms can produce. He's got his helmet on. I know you do the same thing. You're completely protected. Nobody wants to get hit in the noggin with a chunk of ice this big.
I have been hit by these. I have been hit by golf balls. I had my helmet on, but it hit me in the back of the shoulder, and I had multiple bruises on my shoulders from those. So these actually absolutely can be deadly. And what is interesting about that, I know exactly where Brayden was. He was inside the cell, that beautiful cell that we showed earlier with the beautiful colors. That was producing that hail. So he was actually inside that cell.
Wow.
I was watching it from the outside because I didn't have my actual storm chase car. That's the one right there.
Oh,
this
there it
one.
is.
Now this is a little after the main hail core was going through, but this one, this is a supercell. Supercell separates the inflow from the outflow. So that allows it to keep going and allows it to get extremely strong. And when you have very strong updrafts with that the whole rotating updraft, just the perfect kind of storm to produce gigantic hail. So even though you're not getting a tornado, you can still get gigantic hail. You can still get strong winds, especially at the end of the storm's life cycle when it begins to collapse. Remember, all that mass, air is mass, atmosphere has mass. We push it all up. It's got to come down at some point, and when it comes down, you can get incredibly fast winds, and that's often when you see damage. I've been through, thousands of these collapses, and you'll often see me, yelling about how strong the winds are, and you often see tree shred, branches coming off, leaves coming off. They can be very dangerous.
And think of if someone has a new truck, a new car, a new piece of farm equipment, and now you've got dents all over it. I mean, unless it's covered for some reason, that hail is going to do some serious damage.
Oh, absolutely. And keep in mind that it will do some serious damage to you. So I say, when you get to softball-sized hail, or softballs, absolutely softballs. If you get to baseball-sized hail, that can kill. Without a helmet on, your head is the part you want to protect most.
So vulnerable.
Right? Like, you can deal with a broken arm. You can live with a broken arm, but crack your skull and you're in serious trouble. So this is why, if you ever see me out there, I'll be wearing a helmet just like Brayden was, because we're trying to keep that part, clear. Because I spent a long time training this. Didn't go in very well, but
Okay, don't make me laugh. All right, let's talk about this particular storm right now. It is, we assume, producing large hail, some very strong winds, damaging winds, upwards of 110 kilometers per hour. Whether it's rotating or not, these winds are going to be strong and damaging, and you don't want to be out. Plus, there's a lot of rain on these storms. So
Yeah.
localized flooding. If you're driving, I know if you're watching us, you're likely not driving, but if you're a passenger and you're watching us online, this could lead to hydroplaning. You might not be able to see out of your front windshield if the rain is that heavy, and you just don't want to be out in this.
Yeah, I mean, well, quite often when I'm driving, I go through the big puddles, and sometimes you can't see them. Those are the scariest ones because you'll be driving along, and your one wheel will hit the puddle, and that wheel suddenly gets a little bit of drag on it, so it wants to do this on you.
Oh, yeah.
So what often happens with people is they go like this. They steer the other way. They overcorrect, but now your wheels come out of that puddle, and suddenly you're overcorrecting, and now you're going sideways down the road. This is why I always say you got to slow down just a little bit in those systems. If you can't see, especially at night, take a look. You can get some really good clues. If you see someone, a car ahead of you, and suddenly you see a big white wave coming out, that means there's a puddle up there.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah.
If there's no other cars around you, steer around the puddle gently. This is one thing I always.
Yeah, don't go fast.
Yeah, don't yank. Just gently steer. If you're going to hit that puddle a little bit, you're going to feel that tug. Don't overcorrect. Just go through, keep going.
Okay.
So yeah,
that's good advice because sometimes people find themselves in these storms unexpectedly.
Yes.
They've gone out, they're trying to get home in time, they don't make it. Suddenly there's a downpour, and it's like, what do you do when you're behind the wheel? Like,
Yeah.
do you have to pull over, or is there a way to keep going safely?
And 99% of the time, you're going to be dealing with water. You're not going to be dealing with tornadoes. I mean, I've seen, like from the Joplin tornado, I saw some video just recently, truck driver drives right in, goes from bright blue sky to midnight,
Oh,
and then
boy.
the tornado hits him. That is very, very unusual. That's not what you're likely to deal with. You're likely going to be dealing with that heavy rain, large hail, that's the sort of thing. And I can tell you from many experiences, when the hail starts to hit your car, it's absolutely deafening. And it is unbelievable, even small hail. But it's when you get into the gorilla hail that you really have to be worried.
And your windshield can crack.
Oh, and gorilla hail will absolutely crack your windshield. The reason we call it gorilla hail is because it sounds like a gorilla is beating on your car.
No.
Yes, this is a chaser thing.
Although, well, thank you for that
Yeah,
intel.
yeah.
I have watched lots of videos of that kind of thing happening, and
Yeah.
it does sound very loud, but I'm sure it's magnified by
Oh.
10 when you're actually sitting in the vehicle.
Yes, I've actually talked to you, but you've been in here in the studio, and I've been actually out in the field in the hail, and
And
it
you
is
can't-
sometimes very difficult. You've said things to me, and I literally could not hear what you said, and I have my earpiece in. Like, it's that loud. Even small hail, a lot of it can get very, very loud, and it can get very startling. It can scare people. One thing I'm going to say, though, and I'm going to emphasize this to everybody out there, please, 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 do not stop underneath bridges. I have seen
Right.
this far too often where people panic, they stop under bridges, and I have seen people stopped in live lanes on roads like the 401. Quite often it's in the United States, on the interstates, and people will literally be stopped. I can't see you, and
No.
suddenly I come across. I'm expecting an open lane, and suddenly there's cars, and I can't go on either side because it's cars all the way across. If your car gets wrecked by hail, you can go talk to insurance. You can go
Yes.
have the dunce repaired. You can't repair it when an 18-wheeler goes through the back of your car because you've stopped in a live lane. And this has happened.
And
So-
people stopping in an underpass, talk about why that's so dangerous.
Well, I mean, it's dangerous mostly because of the traffic.
Because
but
you can't see them
you
necessarily.
can't see that someone's going to plow into the back of you. And this has come from a very old, I can look back now, it's like 1999, video of a couple of people jumped out of their car with a tornado coming. They ran up underneath the overpass, and they held on, and the tornado blasts past them, and it's very dramatic, and it's everything. And everybody got the idea that this was a safe place to be. And that is where all of this comes from.
Okay.
So, and what I have to emphasize is that is the worst place you could be.
Yeah.
Because if a tornado actually does hit you, that area, you get a little bit of what we call the Bernoulli effect. So when you squeeze down that airflow, it actually speeds up. So in 1999 in Moore, Oklahoma, a couple people did that under an overpass and got yanked out from underneath by the tornado. And unfortunately, they were killed.
Yeah.
And this is where this whole thing of stopping under overpasses came from. It's sort of lost to the mists of time now.
Right.
But this is why it's dangerous for traffic. It's dangerous to be in those wind speeds. Please don't stop. just keep going. If you're really nervous, pull off to the side. That's going to reduce the speed at which the hail is hitting you. You may lose your windshield. Better than losing your life.
I'm just going to go over the warnings one more time, and then we're going to go over to Chris Potter. So the rural municipality of Tash, you're in the tornado warning, including Lorette, Saint-Geneviève, St. Anne, and Landmark. So these areas are currently under the tornado warning. We were concerned about Mitchell, Blumenor, Landmark, St. Anne, Dufresne, all of these areas. Again, if you're in one of these communities, we're talking about how dangerous tornadoes can be if this storm is producing a tornado. Still kind of hard to tell. Looks like there's rotation on these thunderstorms, but these thunderstorms are severe, whether or not they're rotating or not. Okay, let's check in with meteorologist Chris Potter, who's keeping a close eye on these storms as well.
And I can't wait for Mark's new book, Don't Do This During a Thunderstorm or a Tornado.
Don't do this.
Don't do this, do that. I mean, I'll take it right off the map. Regardless of that, just maybe stay home this evening. You know, watch us, watch your favorite movie, have a plan just in case you do get a tornado-warned storm. So we're not done with it. I can guarantee there's going to be multiple other opportunities for rotation to lead to a tornado warning. It's this explosive area across southeast of Winnipeg. It just refuses to quit, as Tyler has pointed out. It just continues to show signs of rotation. Yes, the tornado warning is still in place. So there's also activity off towards the western Regina as well. We're going to go off to the next one. Oh, pardon me. Come on. Live TV, folks. Here we go. There. So we're seeing how widespread all this active weather is. We're not seeing the most severe thunderstorms just yet. Once again, we have opportunity in swift current. Moving up towards the north in Saskatoon, there is once again some warnings out there across the board. Once again, this is our warning, or not our watch, our forecast. In red, once again, this is an area shaded, a large swath. In that area through this evening, be prepared for severe weather. Whether or not it's rotational or not, it's, well, dare I say, almost irrelevant, because I mean, we're talking about severe thunderstorms. A point Mark has put out many times. He's a storm chaser. He knows how to stay safe, and you should too, because I mean, this area is ripe for this kind of setup. We've already seen it Saturday as well as Sunday. Luckily, no tornadoes have been officially confirmed. They'll continue to investigate, obviously, any damage that has been. So what I guess the point I'm really trying to make is, you know, as a father, as a husband, as a person, not just a meteorologist, if you don't need to go anywhere, why even chance it out there on the roadways? You don't have to think about going on an overpass just by sheer instinct alone. You can just not be out there in the first place. So if you don't need to be out there with severe weather threat, I mean, maybe stay home. Because once we get through the rest of this evening, we're going to once again see that transition. I'm going to let this particular model play out. There's still obviously big factors which might lead this to not be exactly the same. But what I want you to do is just look at your location, pinpointed. Look at the top left where the clock is. That's local time for you. And just watch it as it proceeds over the next couple of hours. What we're seeing is all these individual storms becoming a more cluster, almost forming a line, a squall line. Within this line, as it develops, there still is the potential, even though they're not supercells, for rotation to lead to kind of a few isolated areas of concern. So even as we get to the evening and that transition from more of a discrete thunderstorm to a linear or straight line wind potential, there's still going to be straight line potential in there. So that's what's happening. The supercell potential will once again continue as it progresses through southeastern Saskatchewan through Manitoba. So this is a fairly large area. This is once again a model's interpretation of where the supercells could be. Even if there's not rotational, there's hail. Put it into perspective. When we say baseball-sized hail, how big that is, and more importantly, how heavy this is. The larger the hail, the stronger the updraft, the stronger the instability, and the bigger effect it will have on you, whether it's hail the size of baseballs, 7.5 centimeters, or even softball size, even larger than that. Here's what we're looking at for the hail swath at the last update. Oh, pardon me. There we go. And it's basically still producing hail right now. Look for the pink, if you will, that's moving. It's continuing to move. We're still seeing the probability of hail as well. Lightning potential is there as well. And this is something that we kind of forget sometimes about. The lightning. Lightning doesn't necessarily, drive fatalities in Canada dramatically. I think the last time I researched it was like 2, 3, but hundreds of people are injured by just lightning alone. The lightning with these kind of setups are generally cloud to cloud, and there is some of those negative strikes, cloud to ground. Those are the ones we worry about. The majority of them will be in severe thunderstorms, cloud to cloud with this particular setup, especially as we start to see them becoming that cluster, that line. As that happens, we're talking about a light show. You'll know the thunderstorms are moving towards you. If you are in one area to the east and it's moving in from the west, it's really most of these moving south to north, similar to Saturday and Sunday. All the dynamics are similar to what we experienced with the jet stream, the low-level jet. Everything's there. We all know about this. The bottom line is we're still tracking this, Mark and Kim. We're still doing it. I talked for a long time. I'm going to take a quick little break. I'll let you guys talk about the radar and what we're still seeing. Mark, I know you're looking at your phone right now. I can see you. You're ready. You're ready for an update. Which area could get cored the hardest over the next hour? Where would you go, Mark, if you were chasing right now and you could just teleport there? And I tell the audience, if he says your area, be prepared for it. I'm just saying.
I'm going to say just north of Steinbach. That's going to be my spot right here.
Perfect.
You can actually see we're just going to go to the last frame of the radar here. When I've got my other radar, you can actually see the rotation is sort of sitting just in this area right here at the very last frame of this. There you go. There it goes. So the rotation's sort of sitting right in here. So there it goes. So there's that whole storm moving this direction.
When it looks like a tail, that's what we want people to see.
Yeah,
The fact that it's a little hook.
That's the hook, right? So that's even though the storm, if you were to look at the storm, it's a beautiful big circular system, but when we look at it on radar, it looks more like a fish hook.
Right.
And that tells you immediately that's where the center of rotation is. That's where if there is going to be a tornado, it's going to be sitting sort of right down in here. So as Chris was saying, I'd love to be right there, right, just right outside of Steinbach.
Yeah, you don't want to be in it. You want to be watching it from afar.
You can actually see into it, right? Because this is what we call the inflow. So this storm is pulling all the warm, moist air sort of up through Steinbach, up into itself here, and then the cold air sort of wrapping around this way. So that's why you have this spin to it, and so it's able to pull in that warm, moist air. And of course, if we were looking at three-dimensional, it's spinning this direction. So keep in mind that a tornado is just an expression of the energy of the entire storm itself. So disrupting a tornado, that doesn't disrupt the storm. So that tornado can reform quite quickly. We often see this when they pass over top of trees. You'll see them sort of rip the trees out of the ground, and then the bottom of that funnel may break down a little bit, and then it gets going again once it's sort of passed and reformed itself, because it's just the energy of the storm. I've quite literally watched it happen, where this tornado came across the golf course, very strong, hit the trees, ripped the trees out of the ground, and then it dissipated. And then went right over top of my sister-in-law's house and didn't wreck the house, and then started again on the other side of Windsor.
Yeah, I've seen that before where there'll be a house maybe with the roof ripped off.
Yeah.
And then the next two houses are fine. And then, 2 streets over, another house. So people are like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But it can do that.
Yeah, and one of the things that we found, talking with Dr. Dave Sills and I, what we found with a lot of damage that we've seen around farmhouses of all things. Farmhouses back in the day planted trees down the laneway. Those wonderful fall shots, right? Where you have the trees on either side.
Right.
What happens is the tornado has hit those, dissipated, and not wrecked the house, and then dropped in the field on the other side. And we keep finding this. The trees are sacrificed, but the house survives. And this is often what happens. That isn't necessarily what's going to happen in the strongest of strong tornadoes, but usually in the slightly weaker ones, if we're down at EF2 to EF0, that's when you're most likely to be saved. When you're up to the EF4 and EF5s, all bets are off.
What kind of atmosphere did we have for this to kind of ramp up? Like, we're looking at this yesterday, the day before.
Yep.
We saw several days of a volatile atmosphere.
Yes.
So what are the ingredients that we need for something like this to come to fruition?
First thing we need is fuel. So you have to have the heat and the moisture. That is quite literally coming from the Gulf of Mexico. So that heat and moisture making it all the way up through the United States, all the way up into Canada. Now, there's a little bit of extra on there. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it involves crops. Don't worry about that. Right now, a lot of this moisture coming from way down south. That's the fuel. Fuel's in place, ready to go. What we also now need is something to spin the storms. And so that's something we call wind shear. So in the upper atmosphere, right on this one, we've got the winds going this way, sort of like this is what we call a trough. So it's pushing all that in this direction. At the surface, the winds are coming in this direction. So now you've got two different things, and you get with these little rolls, these horizontal rolls in the air. You can't see them, but they sort of roll. So the wind, or the atmosphere is tending to want to do this on the ground. Add a little bit of sunlight in there, get the heat going, get everything bubbling up, and those rolls then start to get tilted into the horizontal. When they tilt into the horizontal, that's when you have the potential for the storm to actually spinning in this direction. And that's what we're watching for. So that's all part of storm development. And what's actually really cool is you can actually see, I remember I said that it tilts up. There's one tilting this way and there's one spinning this way. This left split quite often dies off. It's not doing the right thing.
Right.
The right split, that's the one that's strong. And that's actually what we saw on this storm earlier today in the Winnipeg region.
Just at the
you
Winnipeg,
actually watched it split, and the northern one went, producing giant hail. Quite often, that's what it does. I think this is actually the split up here. So you can actually see it began to split. This is the right split. So this is the stronger part of the storm. So yeah, there's that left split. It's already gone. We can't go far enough back. But this one is the stronger one because that's pulling all that inflow in. That's able to really tap into that good moisture and really tap into the spin of the Earth itself.
Do we have something new?
Oh,
Just locations in the path.
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so we have still, St. Anne and La Coulee are still in the path of the tornado. The warning still continues, not surprisingly, considering what you've just said. So, Rural Municipality of Tash, Rural Municipality of St. Anne, including Richer, Lorette, Saint-Geneviève, and Landmark, all included in this. You're talking about wind shear, and when we talk about hurricanes, for example, we always say wind shear will kill the storm. It's the opposite. The opposite is true when it comes to tornadoes. Big difference between them. They need wind shear in order to develop. So two different things. Now we're looking at two hooks? Is this?
Yeah, I'm going to show you something. I'm literally looking on my radar, like on my phone. This is the radar I use out in the field, so I'm very familiar with how this works.
Yes.
Right now, we're seeing rotation here. This is the stronger of the two rotations. This is, you can actually see there is, I'm just looking at it right here. There's a beautiful hook right there. Over here on this one, there's a secondary. This might be another hook. Isn't always absolutely a hook. Sometimes you just get weird little artifacts with things. But there is, and I'm looking at this, just a little bit of rotation on it. Not as strong. This is definitely the one to watch. This one right here. Yep, thank you. This one here. Again, the direction that it's heading in, sort of headed in this direction towards Ross. So this is sort of where it is headed. Yeah, that gives you a basic idea of it. Now, what often happens with these ones, when these supercells start getting going, the direction of the storm, main storm is this, but then they'll sometimes begin to turn right. And when they make that right turn, like a chaser, that's something I notice. I get, oh boy, here we go. And that's why being here sometimes on these storms is not a great idea. You actually want to be a little further south, because if that storm begins to turn right, now that tornado is going straight at you. So you actually sort of want to be down here. So this is why, if the storm itself is moving this direction, keep in mind, they're not always going to go in the same direction. They may turn, make that right-hand turn. And that's why, like, if you think...
That's what we see in the movies when things go awry, right? It makes a sharp right turn.
It makes a sharp right turn.
And they're not ready for it.
Yeah, and that often happens with these storms. It's just part of the physics of how these storms work.
Yeah.
That you will see that right-hand turn with the strongest
That's
storms.
why we want people who have a lot of experience to be out storm chasing. And if you're trying to do this for the first time, you go with someone who's experienced, who understands the meteorology, who understands the physics, who's, you think that you're safe. Oh, it's not like I'm following it, but it's not coming towards me. But if it turns, you're in trouble.
Yeah, if you're a brand new chaser, you should never be that close.
Right.
You should be a kilometer away. But I do know experienced chasers. I've been in pretty tight with tornadoes. I've actually been chased down the road by tornadoes.
Eesh.
Yeah, it was an interesting day down in Nebraska and Kansas. But yeah, this is one of these things we often see in the United States. They've got new warning systems where you actually see they've got it's almost like a triangle now. Like a wedge, like a pie-shaped warning. So you'll actually, and it says, anywhere in this could be where the storm goes, because if it makes that right-hand turn, It could be down here. If it doesn't make the right-hand turn, maybe it stays weak, it's going to be up here. So this is why we see that. We're getting to that. Canada is getting towards using that.
Yeah.
Has some technical issues with it, but we are getting towards it. They will be using it at some point, hopefully this summer, but we will see.
Well, you know, it's important what you're showing on a radar because people can all have radars in their hand with their weather apps or the radar apps, whatever it is that you use. And if you can recognize the signs of a powerful storm, a rotating storm, a hook echo, whatever it is. Like, so we're showing you, maybe right now you're like, oh, this looks like just a colorful blob to me. So when you point out what specifically means that this storm is dangerous, it can help everyone because you all have the capability of looking at radar and trying to figure out what direction is the storm moving, how powerful is the storm, and whether or not there could be a tornado.
But we should always be listening to Kim because Kim is an absolute expert in this. And when Kim says that, you know, she's got the ability to interpret what the radar is doing because, you know, it takes a while to really understand this radar and understand exactly what it's doing.
Yeah.
So, you know, we try to bring that, you know, interpretation of what we're seeing on this and where these storms are going. So again, there's that hook of what looks to be the hook. As I said, I'm sort of using my own personal, you know, radar at the same time. So it does look like the rotation sort of just in here, just south, sort of right below Dufresne, I believe is how it's pronounced. So. This is, I believe, the Transcan, Kim?
Yep.
This
One is Transcan.
Yeah,
yep.
So this is sort of making its way. It's probably, that rotation is probably sitting right on top of the Transcan or just to the south of the Transcan right now. Having been out there a couple of days, well, less than 48 hours ago, I know how busy that Trans-Canada is. You know, keep in mind that not only are we seeing potential for rotation, a tornado going across the Trans-Canada, I can see multiple areas sort of up here, hail. Right in there, hail. You know, driving through there, when we were talking about earlier how loud it gets and how scary it can be, yeah, that's what you're going to go through.
I'm going to bring in Chris right now, but I wanted to say, too, that this is why we have warnings. This is why we have a tornado watch in advance, giving everyone the heads up. Maybe you know, want to stay in rather than making that trek. I know there's lots of transport trucks who travel along Highway 1, but this is also why you may get a warning going off on your phone. So maybe you pull over into a truck stop or a gas station or somewhere else rather than trying to take this road. Okay, you want to say something before we start,
Chris? Yeah, I'm going to say, I was just taking a look. I got the radar going, so it gives me an idea. So I believe, Kelly, you put the actual arrows on it. She is absolutely correct.
Yes.
At this point, the rotation is moving almost in this direction.
Right.
Originally, like when the storms first were going, it had a much more easterly component. Now it's got that very strong northeast, so it's definitely moving across and likely up towards St. Rita. What else we got in there? Vivian Station. So this whole area, if you are in the path here, definitely be prepared for the potential for some very strong winds, large hail. Lightning is the biggest danger, as always. And of course, there is that potential for a tornado in there.
Okay, Chris Potter, what can you add to all of this conversation? You know, it's getting pretty spicy over here with this particular storm and the fact that the hook echo is so clear on the radar.
It's very clear. Yeah, it's very clear. It's getting fuego, guys. Just spicy and fuego. Yeah, I'm basically cascading off of this. That rotated storm and that little hook echo is obviously migrating towards the north and east. But you look at the sheer size of the actual cluster. I mean, this is a gigantic area. It has grown significantly. So just like the rotating area, that spin that's likely perhaps even producing a tornado, this whole thing is migrating up towards the north and east. I'll do you one better. You zoom out a little bit more. Everything is generally moving in the same direction. So everything is similar to what we expected and what we experienced Saturday and Sunday. One area could get into some rainfall, turbulence in terms of large hail, and then more will come, and then more will come. So I think with these, obviously tornadoes a risk. Obviously, the conditions are favorable for severe thunderstorms capable of producing tornadoes, at least for the next couple of hours. Once the sun sets, we still have maybe an hour or so as these storms become linear, and that will once again happen fairly quickly as well. As that happens, just like last time, we are going to basically see this develop into a cluster, a line. Within this huge line, which basically moves across the entire area that we've been talking about with the potential of severe thunderstorms by the time it's all said and done, almost the entire area will experience heavy rainfall. The potential of flooding because of just how much moisture is available, especially, once again, the unfortunate area of southeastern Saskatchewan up down towards Estevan, Carlisle, Melita, Brandon, Sandy Bay. But this time we're going to add on Winnipeg again. And that should happen as we get just past midnight. You'll experience the wind starting to pick up first. The sky will become dark. And this is going to be basically a light show as it moves in. The supercell potential, obviously that's important because that kind of depicts where those discrete cells will be. That kind of falls off as we get through the late evening. As that becomes that line, that linear line, we're still going to be seeing hail. That rotational energy is gone. Sure, hail the size of baseballs or tennis balls or golf balls, still quite possible, at least into the beginning stages of the overnight. We're seeing that right now continually down towards Winnipeg, Moosomin, where this is a severe thunderstorm warning. The probability of hail will still continue. A light show as we get through the overnight. And this is very typical with these nocturnal, almost MCS-like areas of thunderstorms. All these individual thunderstorms come together. The conditions don't become favorable anymore for rotational, but straight line winds are still quite powerful as well. In fact, they're more widespread. Tornadoes, sure, can produce significant winds, 200, 300 kilometer an hour if the tornado is strong enough, but it's in one swath, depending on the sheer size of the actual tornado. Straight line winds or microbursts or downbursts are a little bit more widespread, and they can still produce hurricane force wind gusts. Severe thunderstorm warnings are still out there once again northwest of Regina, up towards Bertle, and once again we're still dealing with a tornado warning. It is still in place. It has been in place. I'll have to get confirmation of exactly how long, but there's a reason for it. This storm is still rotating. It just refuses to quit. And in fact, looking at some of our messages, a WestJet flight from Halifax to Winnipeg had to divert because of obviously what's going on right now. So I guess something to add to the list of potentials for this evening. If you have a flight in and out of Winnipeg, definitely call ahead, guys. And as I've been talking, has there been any visuals that we've been seeing, any more rotating storms? I'll put my earpiece in as I've been talking, unfortunately. Guys, I'm going to ask you, as Mark is clearly showing Kim something, share with the class, Mark.
Yes, I'm just taking a quick look on Twitter, X. There does look to be a needle-like tornado near St. Anne, Manitoba. I can't confirm that. I'm going to be very careful. Quite oftentimes what we're seeing, people mistake things. This one,
funnel?
if this is real, this is absolutely, clearly a needle-like funnel. Whether or not it's a tornado, that's going to be up to the Northern Tornadoes Project to go and assess whether there's actual damage there.
Yeah.
You can often get these funnel clouds that is the beginning of a tornado, but again, we have to confirm that that column of air is actually touching down.
Yeah, sometimes we can tell with a video, but often we don't find out if a tornado actually touched ground until damage has been assessed, the area has been looked at, and sometimes that takes a day or two. But in this case, there are obviously storm chasers on these storms. They're capturing visuals. It's still quite light outside, and they're seeing it. But St. Anne has been in that tornado warning for quite some time, and clearly these storms have moved right through there.
Yeah, now St. Anne is near Steinbach, I believe, sort of very close to the Trans-Canada Highway in that area. Definitely that is under a rotating storm.
We're going to go to Winnipeg. I think we've got a little bit of video that came in from Winnipeg as the storm moved through. Oh, that's some hail.
There we go.
Thank you to Craig McFarland for this. Yes, severe thunderstorm warning for Winnipeg. Winnipeg was never under a tornado warning, but certainly getting a soaking.
Yes. And this is the core of the storm. Quite often with these storms, if they're not what we call HP storms, if you're in the core, if you're getting the hail and the rain and everything, and you can't see too much, you're often safe from the tornado itself. Quite often the tornado is going to be on the southwest side of the storm. So in that core, this is the core part. Tornadoes down here to the southwest.
Like where we saw the tail.
Right, exactly. And that's where that's that hook that we saw right there. That hook down there, that's where there. Oh, these are hail swaths. Yeah, you can really see right there. There you go. There's the hail swath there. That makes complete sense because this is sort of where we've been watching. Oh.
We got part dropped.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the tornado warning ended for St. Anne, where we were looking at online at that potential tornado, including Richer. So those areas are dropped. But we continue to have the rural municipality of Tash, including Lorette, Saint-Geneviève, and Landmark. So those areas are still under the tornado warning, but the other area of St. Anne, including Richer, has dropped, and that's because the storm has already moved through.
Yeah, just because we saw that picture and sort of said that it was in St. Anne, keep in mind that quite often we have a delay in data. So someone may have posted that picture, and that may have happened quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Quite often, if it's not a storm chaser, they're not necessarily going to put the time on when they saw it. I try to. Sometimes it's very hard to get the time in the place.
Yeah.
Kim, I know you've asked me a few times while I'm out in the field, where are you? Exactly. When did that happen? Exactly. And this is why, because trying to get that data back and try to get the, it is kind of amazing when you think about the modern way that we can get these pictures instantly. When I first started chasing, I would see pictures the next day. Oh my goodness, I just dated myself. It might be quite a while. The cell phones were decent, but you couldn't get pictures on them.
Right.
So yeah, now
then you had to take them and get them developed.
No, not that.
I'm just kidding. So that's the great thing about social media, is
Yeah.
that we can see things almost immediately. There are downsides, of course, when people have AI photos. That happens often in big storms like these. You'll see a tornado, it looks real, it's in the place that may have a warning on it, but it's not real. Someone's just putting it out there.
Quite often people just mistake. Someone puts out something, oh, I saw this picture, this must be the tornado, when they throw it up as if they're sure of it. That happens.
Yeah.
Mistakes happen.
Yeah, sure.
So that's why we always have to be very careful when we say, this is a confirmed tornado. It really will not be confirmed until the Northern Tornadoes Project goes out, takes a look, sees damage, or sometimes they can confirm from the pictures or the video themselves if they can confirm that video.
Yeah, and if they confirm the person as well.
They will,
right?
I was going to say, they literally will call. I've talked to my friend Dave, and Dave has literally called people up and said, what did you see? And if you can confirm that with a person, they will, he'll confirm that as a tornado. But so it does take a little while. We can see different shots. That's a beautiful, beautiful shot. There it is. That's the St. Anne. You know what, Kim? I want to talk about this one just a little bit.
Yes.
This looks like a wall cloud. This looks like the bottom of a wall cloud, rapidly rotating wall cloud. Again, I believe this is a still picture. Yes, it's a still picture.
Yeah.
But you can see, and I don't know if you can pull me up, I can show you. But you can actually see this side here, this white half of the picture. That is the side facing you, and then you can see that dark area in the back. Just think about upside down bowl, and we're sort of seeing the upside down bowl right there, and that's that whole thing that's rotating. If you're going to see the tornado, it's going to be somewhere underneath here, and. Can I just say shout out to Claudette?
Oh yes,
Claudette. Yes,
thank you. For this particular photo. We love it if we can see it as well. It's one thing to look at it. Okay, it's one thing to look at it on radar, but when you actually see images of these storms, it sometimes tells the story just a little bit better. Springfield now in the tornado warning. So that is new. The rural municipality of Springfield is in, including Enola and Birds Hill Provincial Park. So those areas are in, and the rural municipality of Tash is still in as well. Yeah, I believe this is another picture from Claudette, because it looks like it's a little further out, a little bit more zoomed out. This is a beautiful, beautiful example of a supercell storm with the area of rotation, what we call the mesocyclone. So all of that energy, all the spinning energy of the storm, all sort of concentrated down into here. But you can see right here, look at that. That beautiful curve. That is telling me that this is spinning. That underneath there, this is where the wall cloud itself is. And the wall cloud is essentially the condensation of the warm, moist air moving in, interacting with the cold air from the core of the storm back here. And this is sort of the business end of the storm. Perfect. It's just absolutely beautiful, classic. These are not HP. This is not high precipitation. This is what we call a classic supercell storm. The area of Saint-Geneviève is the area in the path of this particular storm, as well as Ross. So if you're in Saint-Geneviève and Ross, this is your time to get into a basement, into the lowest level of your home. If you don't have a basement, this is what we urge people to do. These storms, as you say, look beautiful. Watch it on our screen. You don't want to watch it out your front window, because it is flying debris that could cause real issues. Something breaks, something flies, and now people are injured as a result. So that's why we want you away from those windows in an interior room if things are getting serious. Yeah, keep it
keep in mind, most deaths or injuries from tornadoes are not from the tornado picking you up and throwing you. They're actually from flying debris.
Yeah.
This is we see puncture injuries, we see lacerations from flying debris. It's not how fast the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing. And keep in mind, in some of the strongest tornadoes, they can pick up trains. So even like low-end tornadoes, the F-Zeros, those can absolutely pick up small things like an iPhone. Imagine an iPhone being flung at you at 120 kilometers an hour.
Wow.
You're going to have a bruise.
Yeah.
Or if not more serious injuries. And that's the lowest end of the tornado when we get into the tornado scale. So this is why even the weakest tornadoes can be damaging.
All right, here we
There it
are.
is.
We're back in St. Anne, again, Manitoba. So Jane, I guess, LG, has taken this particular photo, and this is kind of what you were seeing online earlier.
Yes, and this is perfect, right? There's the wall cloud. So that's the mesocyclone right there. And then there, right in the center, is the actual tornado itself. The interesting thing about this is you can see this absolutely is a funnel cloud for sure.
Yeah.
Again, be very careful saying full tornado because I'm not seeing anything on the ground right here.
Right, you don't see anything spewing
That's
up.
right.
You don't see
And
the
when I see
debris
that,
flying.
I can say, yes, tornado.
Right.
But look how smooth those sides are. That is classic tornado or classic funnel cloud. You're really looking for those very smooth, what we call laminar flow. So it's very smooth flow. You're not getting these ragged clouds like this. We often see these ragged things coming down, and we always get told that this is a tornado. Quite often, it's what we call SCUD, stratocumulus under deck. That's what it stands for.
I didn't know what it stood for.
That is what we call it, yes.
All right.
So SCUD, this is SCUD here. So this, not tornado.
The raggedy is
raggedy.
SCUD.
And you can sometimes have it down and it looks like that. What you're looking for is that smooth-sided. That tells you that this is the center of rotation. This is potentially a tornado.
So this is where the Northern Tornado
The Northern Tornadoes Project.
Project will go. Like they will
Yes.
likely go here and see what happened, see if there was some damage
Yes.
done based on this photo alone, likely.
Yes. Well, I was talking to Dave earlier today, and he did say that he was potentially activating the Prairie version, the Prairie team, because it actually has multiple teams across the country, and the Prairie team will likely head out there tomorrow to take a look and see if they can find the damage, and they'll actually be able to ID that. They'll take radar archives, look for that strong rotation area, coordinate and triangulate it to where the picture, they go there and then they could find. And keep in mind, when we talk about damage, we don't necessarily mean roofs ripped off,
right.
Debris everywhere. There's been a couple of tornadoes in Ontario where all that there was the wheat was blowing down, and that is damage. We can say that is damage. I mean, you put quotes around it as damage, but it does indicate that this touched down. So this is a tornado.
Yeah, an EF0.
An
likely.
EF0, yes.
Right, so when we're talking about the scale, EF0 to EF5, rarely would we see something that strong here in Canada, but often it's after the fact, looking at damage, what kind of damage was done, then they can determine what kind of winds would cause that damage, and then they can make a rating for that particular storm.
Yes, keep in mind, the tornadoes are not rated on wind speed. They're rated on the damage that they do, simply because it's very difficult to measure the wind speeds in a tornado. Putting an instrument into a tornado, very difficult. I know, I've tried it myself.
We've seen that in movies too.
We've seen that in movies as well, and that's actually based on a real thing. Not the little balls coming out of it, but the actual thing itself. We can talk about that in a little bit.
We'll nerd out later.
Yes, but we also might not necessarily have a radar image of it. Keep in mind that if you've got, say this is 60,000 feet. There we go. That's 60,000 feet. That's the top of the tornado storm, the bottom of the storm, right there. There you go. The tornado is maybe this big underneath. If that's a big tornado too.
It's like a glacier.
Yes.
Right? Or,
yes. Only opposite.
Yeah. You see the little bit of the top and then everything else. Yeah, exactly.
So when the radar cuts through, it's going to cut through, say, up here in the storm. That whole thing is rotating, so we can say, yeah, that's definitely rotation there. So it might be producing a tornado. If we get very lucky, it'll go past one of the weather radars. Or in some of the places in the States, the Doppler on wheels. They can have those, and they'll measure the tornadoes directly.
I think we have some more video. Is
Oh,
that
do we
right,
have some more
Manny?
video? I'd like to see that. That'd be
Okay. Here we go. So this is in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. I know we've been really focusing on Manitoba because
Yeah.
of the tornado warnings, but certainly Saskatchewan has been seeing some storms as well. You were
Yes.
saying that your friend was showing you a potentially rotating storm.
My first tornado many years ago in the Prairies was just outside of Moose Jaw. So I was
Okay.
like, oh yes, I know that area. Yeah, I mean, we are concentrating on the one near Winnipeg. That's the one with the tornado warning on it. But yes, other areas are experiencing, significant thunderstorms. Right now, that one.
Like, look at
looks
this.
A little bit linear. Yes.
Like this is all like Saskatchewan extending all the way to northern Ontario. So yeah, you may be seeing some decent weather. And I say decent weather,
Yes.
but I mean the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Some severe weather in Saskatchewan as well, but it's in Manitoba that we've been concentrating because of the tornado warnings and what looks like a possible tornado.
Yeah. Now this one, I'm going to point this radar out right here. Really interesting. Nothing. Boom. Right there. What happened earlier, and something I was watching, was a cold pool, a cold mass of air coming off of this storm, moving out towards this line of storms here. And I said, as soon as that outflow bound, we call it an outflow boundary, that cold air hits this, it's going to explode. And I think that's exactly what happened right there when it hit. It just went kaboom. And we are going to be watching again. This one might be firing off its own outflow boundary towards out here. And of course, we can't see right now. But down south in the United States, we have another series of storms that will be making its way north. That's when everything's going to likely go linear. And just have that gigantic, potentially even a bow echo in there.
I think Kelly wants to say something.
Take you to see the cell that he's circling there?
Yes?
Wall cloud.
Oh, there is a wall cloud on that one.
Yeah, Braden's on that one.
Oh, Braden's on that one? Okay. Oh, that's perfect. Did he send a picture?
Yes.
Oh, great. Okay, so yeah, so there's this one, obviously rotating as well. If as our meteorologist is saying over here that Braden's watching this one, there's wall cloud on that one, likely meaning that one's rotating as well.
Yeah, we
Little
don't have
bit
the
more of a
photo just
linear
yet.
look. Like it's a little bit more linear than
Right.
the ones over here. A little bit of a different environment over here versus over here, but we were expecting this area to also light up potentially with
Yeah, it was in the
supercells.
tornado watch
Yes.
earlier today and still is as well. We're going to get that photo later from Braden. He's on these storms as well, but he's in Saskatchewan, and obviously we've been seeing a lot of the photos that have been coming out of Manitoba, specifically St. Anne, which was in the tornado warning, is no longer in the tornado warning, but one of the areas we were watching. Here it is again.
Yep.
Here's that photo from St. Anne, courtesy of Jane. So, tag the Weather Network if you'd like us to see your photos. We want you to stay safe, obviously. If you're safe in your home, then that's great, but we don't want anybody taking any photos or any videos where you might be put into any kind of jeopardy, obviously. Storm chasers, that's one thing. If you're safe in your home, that's another. Beautiful structure. It does give us a great idea of what is happening where you live, and I always encourage people to take photos and videos, but not if the weather's dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, and keep in mind the single biggest danger on any given storm is lightning. It's always going to be lightning. Not every storm produces a tornado. In fact, tornadoes are incredibly rare. As much as we
Yeah.
get to see these pictures, they're actually very, very rare. Lightning happens on every single thunderstorm.
Yeah.
And lightning can kill.
It doesn't even have to be a severe thunderstorm.
No, and I was over the weekend. Some of the storms that we had there, we had to be very careful because we had lightning hitting around us, and so we were actually some of the shots you saw of that you may have seen, Kim. Those were shot from inside the car because the lightning was extremely dangerous.
Yeah, and you know enough to get inside when that kind of thing happens, and we've had lightning detectors on this particular map. So any of these white spikes that you're looking at, these are strikes of lightning that have happened over the last hour.
Oh, Kim, this is really interesting right here. There's that split. Remember we were talking about the left and right split?
Yes.
You can actually see it in the lightning data. So there it is together, right there. And then there
Boom.
goes that left split. There continues that right one off towards the northeast. You can see this one died out. This one continues to go. That's often what happens when you have the jet stream doing this, because Mother Nature loves to mess with me. We have had them do the opposite. We've actually had left splits because the way the jet stream was moving, we actually had the left splits get stronger. It's unusual, but it happens.
Yeah, I mean, it almost seems that anything can happen in the atmosphere. There are so many elements. There's so many variables. Whether storm turns right, stays going north,
Yeah.
weakens, strengthens. There's so many things that could happen. You just have to have an idea that things can change.
Yeah, and we use general rules of thumb. It's Generally, storms move to the northeast in the northern hemisphere. It's generally what happens. We've had them do weird things in Ontario because Ontario is its own unique little weird place.
Very true.
Yes.
Okay, this looks like a bit of like a t-shirt on the side. I'm going to bring it over to meteorologist Chris Potter, who's been watching these storms as well, just because my voice is starting to go a little bit and I think I might need a little sip of water. Chris, what'd you think of those photos?
I'm more excited about your reference to that warning looking like a t-shirt.
Yeah, it's just
To be
like
quite honest, now I can't unsee it, Kim. Go get yourself a glass of water. Mark, continue to be excited. Love talking to you. You were talking about the lightning earlier, so let's discuss the light show. With this kind of setup, significant instability. Obviously, the updrafts are quite significant, and lightning is created by that charge separation, especially in severe instability. I'm going to zoom in as tight as I can here. This is the cell across Winnipeg. Obviously, there has been significant rotation picked up for the past hour. This storm has been rotating or showing signs of rotating. In this shot, what you see, there's been 6,000, wait for it, 557 strikes. Most of them are positive, cloud to cloud. Now we go over to the one near Delta, moving up towards the lakes. In this one, even more of a light show, actually. Maybe not. About 6,000. So this is just a great tool to show just how crazy the lightning is. And the one over here, moving to Bertle, in this one, not as intense, but obviously this is a sign that there's so much instability, there's so much charge separation. Obviously this is going to continue to have an impact with significant lightning rather. But as Mark pointed out, most of these cells individually and clusters are moving south to north. Look what's coming in from the south. We've been waiting for something to happen from the Dakotas in the past, once again, hour. We're starting to see this become a little bit of a cluster, but they are, once again, individual thunderstorms, still with the capability of producing supercells. So this discrete thunderstorm potential is in place. Once again, we'll start you off with where the rotation is. Once again, more than an hour of rotation. In the last one, still some rotation. We'll go up as this line that I showed you earlier is migrating towards the north and east, fairly slowly, I might add, still some rotation. So the rotation is basically universal across the board when it comes to a lot of these thunderstorms. Once again, we were talking about the extent. Well, now there's tornado watches to the south of the border and severe thunderstorm warnings. And once again, all of these are going to continue to progress towards the north. And what they're going to do, as I bring back the analysis for you, there we go. This whole area, crude circle, I know it's not identifying exactly where it's going, but everything is lifting once again here. As this happens, a lot of these cells, individuals, even this one, slow, moving up towards Bertle, they will start to more or less coalesce and they'll start to join together. Once again, we've been talking about that transition, if you will. Once again, going from discrete to linear or straight line winds, but straight line winds are still quite damaging. This is all basically driven by that one-day break that we had on Monday. Tuesday, today, obviously the instability started to rise. This is a measurement of CAPE. If you're unfamiliar with CAPE, I'll keep it simple. Convective, available, potential, energy. We like our acronyms, initialisms, if you will, across meteorology. We do. What it is, think about, pretend this is a can of your favorite beverage that's carbonated. If I shake this aggressively when it's still sealed, if I put it down, it's unstable. You know that. If I open it rapidly, it's going to explode. That's what happened to the cell near Winnipeg. Now think about it like this. If I shook the same can of Coke or Pop or whatever, not a sponsor, if you open it slowly, it would be released a little slowly, still unstable, it would pop to a thunderstorm. But when you start seeing these joules per kilogram, which is obviously the unit, a measurement of CAPE, the energy, if you will, joules obviously is a reference and a unit of, pardon me here, there we go, is a unit, once again, of energy.
I'm guessing.
North of Stuyvesant.
You can see all these climbing up towards 3,000, 4,000. This is extreme instability, and it's still moving in from the south. So once again, if you start to see this large area, I mean, you can see the overshooting tops. You can see it being sheared away by that wind shear. So all the dynamics are still in place here. We're literally just starting to get going. We keep on referring to switching gears, if you will, and going into the zone where it actually kind of lines out. So here's a look at kind of what's happening right now. And once again, you're seeing that area, that line starting to take shape to the south. Once again, it is starting to progress Pardon me. I do apologize. There we go. So it's going to continue to move through the same areas that had significant rainfall and flooding. Once again, Estevan, Carlisle, Melita, Moosomin, Brandon, all these areas are going to continue to see heavy rain, frequent intense lightning, large hail, even after it it starts to get into that transition. So once again, that's what's happening. Still some thunderstorms moving through Ontario as well, but obviously we are dealing with this and we're going to continue to deal with it for the next little while. Hail size, obviously this is a big one as well. We've been talking about significant severe hail, and I mentioned this before about the sheer updrafts holding this weight up. That's what essentially it is. Super cooled liquid droplets, if you will. Ice moves up, suspended in the cloud. It continues to rime it together, and the larger hail becomes larger and larger under that condition until, well, it can't defeat gravity anymore and it falls. We've already seen from this weekend's golf balls, tennis ball, baseball, not quite softball. I think the max size in centimeters was about 8 centimeters. That's quite significant. We haven't seen that yet today, but they're basically baseball size. We're once again continuing to monitor this wide area of thunderstorms. Severity still in towards Winnipeg. Heavy rain, flooding. Sorry, just got excited with that last frame. Yeah, some into the lakes. I mean, once again, if you have family or friends out there on the lakes, not the place to be right now. They're suggesting if you are on the lake and you get into a severe thunderstorm watch or warning, obviously the best place to be is get to shore if you can. Once again, we've been showing this map as well. This is just one of those circumstances where, pardon me, where it shows just how quickly and aggressively the cloud tops. I can't be 100%. Yes, it's right here. City of Winnipeg just came in. It is confirmed, so the forecast confidence very high, updated or ended by 7:44. Once again, 6:45, Environment Canada meteorologists are tracking a severe thunderstorm, possibly producing a tornado. So once again, this is radar warned Mark and Kim. The City of Winnipeg now under a tornado warning. I'll let you take away so I can do some analysis.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I know it's hard for you to see what's going on while you're on the air and you're talking, and we were like, oh my gosh, it's come in, because here in the studio, when our printer goes off, it means either a tornado warning has been issued or a tornado warning has ended. And just a moment ago, the printer went off, and we were surprised, really, to see that Winnipeg is now in the tornado warning, in addition to the other areas that have already been in the warning.
Yeah, now, when I took a look at the radar earlier, it does look like the area of rotation sort of sitting over on what looks to be the eastern side. Just, that's me taking a quick look. I'm not necessarily able to see, exactly what ECC is seeing, but that to me looks like it is on that eastern side.
Okay, so Tash as well still in it, including Lorette, Saint-Geneviève, Springfield, including Enola and Birds Hill Provincial Park, Saint-Geneviève and Ross in the path, but now obviously we're talking about the city of Winnipeg. So again, because you're in that tornado warning, you're going to want to take cover. As we said, get into the lowest level of your home. If you're in an apartment building, get low, get into an interior room, preferably without windows, a thing like a closet, maybe a bathroom. These are the places you go when a tornado warning has been issued for you. This is in Beulah, Manitoba. Braden Morrisseau, our storm chaser, out looking at this particular rotating.
Yeah, no, this is interesting, Kim, because if you are seeing something like this,
yep.
That is telling you that you're looking at that area of rotation, you're looking at the potential for a tornado. Now, as a chaser meteorologist, I'm looking right here. You see right here, and it's a little bit tricky to see. I'll make sure I'm not standing in the shot. But you can actually see in real time, this is condensation at the lower level. So this is actually condensing, this is scud condensing into the wall cloud itself. That means right there is where I expect that there potentially could be a tornado forming. As I said earlier, it's not necessarily right in the center. Could be out on this edge. A little tricky to see. Quite often, it takes a little bit of looking afterwards. At the time, you're watching for those areas, that condensing area, and you're looking for that center of rotation. This is definitely a rotating wall cloud. This is potentially dangerous. It's
Yeah.
not dangerous on its own,
No.
but this is where the tornado is likely to form.
It can be dangerous when we're talking about lightning. You know, large hail, if it produces that can be a little bit dangerous as well. And here's another shot of it.
Yeah, now this one gives you a bit of sense of scale.
Okay.
So you can kind of see, we're looking down the hill towards this rotating here. Now in the prairies, a little different than Ontario. Out in the prairies, you can have very, very tall tornadoes because they don't get the moisture, say, that Southern Ontario does. Quite often in Southern Ontario, we have so much moisture, it's very, very difficult to see, which is why we can have very dangerous tornadoes in Southern Ontario because they often get wrapped up in rain, they're covered in haze, you can't see them. Out in the prairies, you get these kinds of things. You can see them from a distance quite often, but those they can produce tornadoes when those wall clouds are much higher than, say, I'm used to. I'm very used to the tornadoes that form in Southern Ontario, say down in Oklahoma, all right? But those
Right.
prairie ones, a little bit different. If we look back on Canada's only EF5, which was Ely, Manitoba, just to the west of Manitoba or of Winnipeg,
yeah.
that was a very tall tornado.
Okay, they can just grow and grow.
Yes.
We're looking into the future now, and what we anticipate these storms to do as we get into the later hours and the early morning hours on Wednesday, and we're seeing the linear structure now.
Yeah. Now, if you look here, see, there's our cluster going past Winnipeg. We do expect Winnipeg, may get out of the storms for a little while, and then, of course, this is this very strong, very long linear system. These are the ones that produce those incredible shelf clouds. Look amazing, very dramatic. Not necessarily going to produce very, very strong tornadoes, but they can have tornadoes in there. Something to be pay attention to. But that one going through Winnipeg itself. That's something that everybody in Winnipeg, whether you're on the east side or the west side, you please pay attention, take shelter now.
It would go off on their phones as well. The alert would go
Yes.
off if they happened to be out. But yeah, it gets a little scarier when you're in an urban center and you can't really see what you're doing where you are. You can get to shelter a little quicker, which is good, but you don't want to be on the road. Again, the city of Winnipeg is right now under a tornado warning. We have the rural municipality of Tash under that tornado warning. Same thing for Springfield. Springfield was just issued before Winnipeg, including Enola, Birds Hill Provincial Park. You don't want to be camping in a situation like this. I have been at Pinery Park in London when a tornado warning went off, and immediately you go to the hard shelter. You go to where the store is, you get out of your tent situation and get to a solid structure.
Yeah, I like to say put as many walls between you and the outside world as you can, and the strongest walls that you can, because we were talking about earlier, it's not how fast the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing. And you can throw an iPhone like that at a brick wall as hard as you can. It's probably not going to be able to go through the brick wall until we're getting up into airplane speed winds, but that will protect you just that little bit. That's what you want to make sure you do. If you have a basement, that is extremely safe. I've quite literally seen a two-story house obliterated, just gone, spread out through the whole backyard. It was a ranch house.
I was going to say in the States.
It was in the States,
Yeah.
yes. Absolutely obliterated. The woman was in the basement, not a scratch on her. Another story
Wow.
from Joplin, Missouri, same sort of thing. They were in an old church. The Joplin, Missouri is one of the strongest tornadoes and was extraordinarily destructive.
Yes.
They were in their basement. They survived just fine. Meanwhile, imagine a kilometer-wide EF5 tornado going through downtown Toronto. That's what the Joplin was, but people were safe, because they were able to take shelter. People that weren't unable to take shelter, of course, we did see injuries and deaths with that tornado. We don't want to see the same thing here. So one advantage the Canadians have over the Americans is that we have basements.
Right.
We have
they
built-in
they
storm
would bring
shelters.
we've seen. I'm going to say again.
Quite
We've
often,
seen in movies in the States, especially in Tornado Alley, people go underground.
Yes.
They don't have a basement in their home, but they have a way to get to safety.
Yeah, quite often there are storm shelters.
I don't know what
here.
those are called.
Look at this
Oh,
one
storm
here.
shelter, okay.
Yeah. This is classic right here. Look at this. Look at that hook echo. It looks like a very, very strong hook echo. I believe, Tyler, you've circled sort of where the rotation is, right there. Just making sure I'm looking over at Tyler to make sure. Yes, I am correct.
Okay, there we go.
There's your rotation. So again, it is on that eastern side. There's the classic hook echo. That is a big hook echo. So that makes me very nervous.
Okay, this is scary.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
definitely something to pay attention to. Yeah, you can really see the development of it right here. So take a look right there. There's that developing as it's developing, going towards the northeast. So anywhere sort of in this area, St. Vital, Again, I'm not the best in my French pronunciation, but again, there it is. That definitely gets my attention. Very strongly gets my attention.
And this is why Environment and Climate Change Canada issued a tornado warning for Winnipeg.
Yes.
Right? Because we were looking at all of this. There had been a severe thunderstorm warning, but these storms can change on a dime, as we say.
Yes.
We can start to see that rotation.
Yeah.
And, you know, these storms continue to move. We didn't necessarily expect Winnipeg to get under that tornado warning, but things changed quickly.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind the largest tornado that I ever saw and I was chased down the road by was the El Reno tornado, largest tornado ever, 4.5 kilometers wide. So imagine a 4.5. Like, this is why we put large areas under warnings, because just because, you know, it can be huge. This is the best way to put it. But just keep in mind something. The size of the tornado does not correspond to its strength.
Right.
It does not mean gigantic tornadoes are the only ones that can do damage. You can have tiny little needle-like tornadoes, not much wider than you to me, doing EF5 damage.
Yeah.
So
A tight rotation.
that's very tight rotation. So this is something we have to watch very
Let's
closely.
talk about this. This is the hail that's coming through right now. So this is indicating hail in purple. There's the city of Winnipeg. There's all of that hail right south of the city. So yeah, this is going to cause some damage.
Yeah, interesting thing about large hail. Quite often you can't see it. You know, you look into storms. Sometimes you see these big white columns. That's lots and lots and lots and lots of small hail, so you can kind of see it. When it starts to get larger, we're talking about baseballs, golf balls, to softballs. They're just big, and if you're far away from it, you might look at it and say, "Oh, that's a nice clear area. I'll just drive through that." And all of a sudden, it sounds like a gorilla is pounding on the top of your car. So this is one of the things. If you do have that kind of severe storms, best to be in shelter. Don't drive. You know, stay away from that. That area that you potentially can see that little bit of rotation. Please don't go underneath that.
Okay. The population of Winnipeg Metro is 835,000. So 835,000 people live in the city of Winnipeg, and I've been mispronouncing Taché. My apologies, municipality of Taché, which has been under that tornado warning, including Lorette Saint-Geneviève. Hopefully I'm getting that right. Yes, so, you know, and if we are getting your town wrong, please just hit us up on social, let us know, and we'll promise we might not make that mistake again. So, so this is a serious situation for the city of Winnipeg. Again, large hail, potential for a tornado, heavy downpours, powerful winds, lots of lightning.
Yeah, Tyler, can we jump back to the radar? I just want to point something out here. Just for in a second, right here. So this is what we call the core of the storm. Is right here. This is that core. And then what happens when you get that rotation? That core tends to get pulled around the tornado, and the largest hail often sort of in a swath right here, right around that main
in
area
the southwest.
of rotation.
Yeah.
So biggest hail, heaviest rain. Biggest hail tends to be right in here. Heavy rain sort of in this area. Yeah, right, exactly, sort of right there. That's where you like, so if you're in this area of Winnipeg, you're potentially experiencing quite large hail. If you're here, as the storm's moving this way, that hail is coming towards you. If you are south of that, if you're in sort of the direction of this, if the storm is moving in this motion, in this direction, that's where the strongest rotation is. And quite often you can, and I have experienced this where you have the hail wrapping all the way around. So even, you know, this is not showing that.
So there's no escaping.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's quite often no escaping. And this one's definitely showing the heaviest rain and largest hail sort of up in this area. But yes, you can often see it there. Sometimes you'll have it all the way around, not at this one, just taking a look at this radar, trying to interpret this radar, it does look like it's sort of staying to that northwest side for now. But this is the business end of the tornado, or the business end of the storm.
Okay.
And unfortunately, it's right in Winnipeg.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about rural communities, the prairies, easier to chase storms, a lot of farmland, not a lot of urban centers, but of course, none of that is true when it comes to the city of Winnipeg, a major center under this tornado warning. So yeah, this is when things can get really dangerous. It's one thing if a tornado touches down in a cornfield. It's another thing if it touches down in the middle of a metro area.
Yeah, and if you're in a metro area, I mean, and you do see the tornado coming towards you, and you're in your car, say you're in a traffic jam, I mean, this is why I don't go anywhere near the GTA when there's storms. You'll never see me on Bloor Street chasing tornadoes.
No. Good.
Yeah. What you can do, oftentimes, if there is a tornado, if you're in immediate danger, getting out of your car and getting into, there's often houses or buildings, something to get yourself into a little bit of shelter. If you're out in the rural areas and you see a tornado coming towards us, the old the idea was to go jump in a ditch.
Yeah.
And the problem was that people would see a tornado and immediately stop the car and jump into a ditch, even though the tornado's nowhere near them. So now we can say, you've got a car, drive away from the tornado. How do we know which way the tornado is going? Well, we often say if this is the funnel, if it's going this way, it's moving in this direction. It's
Right.
it's moving in this direction.
Watch the funnel.
If it's doing this, it's coming at you.
Okay. All right, so now we have the rural municipality of Yellowhead, including Shoal Lake and Elphinstone. So these areas are under the tornado warning. Again, it's still the red level, which is the most extreme. And Winnipeg continues to be under the tornado warning
Yeah.
as well. So rural municipality of Yellowhead, if you're in that area, you're going to want to take shelter, including Shoal Lake and Elphinstone. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Yeah, so I'm looking up what the latest is. Again, they're not getting into too many details here. Tracking a storm, possibly producing a tornado is the latest. Sometimes the ECC will do that. They'll get that tornado warning out quickly. Then they'll come out with another warning that says, okay, it's moving in this direction
Yes.
at this speed, and these are the areas in its path. But it's more important to get the warning out first and then
Yes.
get the details later.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, these tornadoes are on, they're touching down, they're tornadoes for an average of 10 minutes. We're talking about 10 minutes on the ground, and that's it. That's the average. One thing that is interesting, though, is the stronger the tornado, the longer it tends to be on the ground. The longer it tends to be a tornado. So when I say tornado on the ground, that comes from Twister, the movie, because that's what I
Yeah.
kept saying. That's not. That's
It's only a
completely incorrect.
Right.
Because it is if it's on the ground, it's a tornado.
It's a tornado.
So yeah. So if the tornadoes last 10 minutes on average, some will touch down for just a few seconds. 30 seconds, 40 seconds. I've seen those do that. Large tornadoes, which I've seen more than a few times,
They can travel.
they can be doing damage for a very long distance, and they can be quite large. And as I said, you can have these little tiny drill bit tornadoes that might only be as wide as you and I, but could easily pick up a car, let's say. So.
Whew, dangerous. I'm going to
Yes.
check in with Chris Potter, give him a go at this, because while we've been talking, he's been looking at what's going on as well. Yeah, a couple of new tornado warnings since we joined you last, Chris, including, of course, in the city of Winnipeg.
Yeah, and even south of the border as well. I just noticed it south. So once again, we're going to start to see some business pick back up. We're seeing, yeah, I mean, geez. It's active as well. Obviously, Winnipeg, we've been talking about that particular system and that particular cell. This has been rotating for more than an hour and a half. Obviously, it's back building to the west. We haven't seen it exit towards the east. So, in that particular area, I mean, it's going to take some time for it to actually fully clear. So be prepared for intense, frequent lightning. Be prepared for large hail. Be prepared for straight line winds and the potential for rotational winds. Interlake region moving in. And a delta, Longroute. Once again, we apologize if we're mispronouncing this. Oak Point. Basically, anywhere through the Inner Lakes region over the next couple of hours, it's going to be turbulent. It's going to be pretty bad in terms of the overall structures of these thunderstorms. Keep in mind, we talk about those discrete thunderstorms, the supercells, the thunderstorms. The bottom line is they're thunderstorms. We've been talking about lightning. Obviously, it's one of the killers when it comes to thunderstorms, as well as severe thunderstorms. Obviously, you have wind that tends to give damage. Straight line winds are definitely a concern, but what I'm looking at where the next warned storms are is likely from this area, starting to have a little bit more linear structure in the past couple of frames, but I mean, there's still tornado warned storms, so there has been rotation being picked up quite dramatically. Let's actually put on the rotation for us. So, significant rotation, if we were ever curious, significant rotation. So obviously this is basically a large area of thunderstorms. And as we remember, I'll show you the forecast in a second, but what I can tell you, this is going to continue to move in. As this happens, we're likely going to see a lot of thunderstorms that continue to develop, cluster into a large area, like we've been saying, which would happen. And once again, we'll show you the forecast if you're just tuning in. There is multiple areas of tornado warnings. Once again, one, and I'll get into the specifics in a second. There's one still in Winnipeg. Once again, 830+ thousand people in the metro Winnipeg. And there's 2, and once again, this area keeps expanding, folks. So I'm going to do one. Once again, right on the international border, unfortunately, Estevan, Melita, Carlisle, Moosomin, these areas are likely going to be in a more widespread tornado warning because of the significant rotation that I just showed you. So we'll bring up the forecast as promised. Let's see how things go. So as I was pointing out, as it lifts in, it's going to continue to extend all the ways. I mean, this is an extremely large line of thunderstorms. So this bow will likely be in place moving through the Dakotas, but on the advancing northeast through Melita as we get towards 8 p.m. Standard, about an hour's time, that's when it will start to migrate in. There's still going to be that cluster exiting Winnipeg, once again, based on the model's interpretation. So if you're wondering how long, within the hour, conditions should improve in Winnipeg. It's going to get worse again, though. I'll try to put it in motion here. Let's see. There we go. So Winnipeg, you're out of it until about 11 or 12 midnight. Once again, that line, that linear structure is there. As it starts to develop over the next 2 hours, there's still going to be the potential for rotating storms and tornadoes within that line because there will be little minor areas of rotation, and that's still enough, even though they're no longer supercells, to trigger a tornado or two. So in terms of, how much longer we're going to deal with the potential of tornadoes, I would say at around 8:30 local, we'll start to see that transition to linear. But keep in mind, regardless of whether or not it's a tornado or not, we continue to talk. There's still severe thunderstorms, folks. So if you don't need to be out and about over the next little while, this is what's coming to you. Intense lightning through the entire board, basically everywhere that has been warned of severe weather. And like we keep saying, that rotational energy will be starting to say farewell, but the straight line winds are still going to be intense. You could encounter power outages through the overnight. You'll likely be woken up by severe lightning, maybe even large hailstones. The largest hailstones will be through basically the rest of the evening. Once again, even though it's starting to move out of that the rotational and into the linear, we will step out of it. But the bottom line is we're still dealing with a lot of issues. We're dealing with large hail. Obviously, that's a hazard in its own right. You don't want to be outside driving in a car. If you have a garage and you're, like I said, that whole area is going to be lifting in, affecting basically every part on the map that you see right now will be affected by thunderstorms in one way or another. The severity is obviously going to depend exactly on where you are, but this is basically an idea of the probability of hail. It doesn't take into consideration the size, but you look at the darker colors as it goes through. That's representative of a higher risk of hail. Just look how widespread this is. Keep the pics coming. Please be careful out there. If you are currently under a tornado warned area, which includes, once again, Winnipeg as of right now, best place to be is indoors, interior, even if there's not a tornado that does touch down through the city of Winnipeg, because what we're using right now is what's being seen on the radar. It's obviously rotation, but the hook echo is very definitive that the likelihood of a tornado present is very high. The rain keeps on piling up as well. It does say the last 12 hours, but this is essentially what has happened with the thunderstorm. So far, we've already picked up about, 50 to 70 millimeters of rain. These are severe thunderstorms. Given the fact that we have significant instability in place, this is obviously going to be one issue, and I apologize for playing with my ear. I'm sorry, whoever's listening, I'm just going to pull this out one time. I might have to remedy this as I talk. If I go too long, open the door or just talk loud. So, many areas, I mean, you can kind of see the estimated rainfall and kind of see where the thunderstorms are going, the orientation as well. Look at all these lines of thunderstorms. They're going south-southwest to north-northeast. This is what we should estimate to continue. Look what happened once again in the Winnipeg area. This storm cell has not moved. Flooding, definitely a concern for me, and I'm going to throw that out in those areas. What's moving in is definitely a concern as well, because this is basically setting the stage. The models are not quite verifying 100%, but the ideas were all there. The cell that moved into Winnipeg was expected to develop. It was just expected to develop a little bit later, but I'm going to go back to the warning right now. Once again, I'm going to zoom it out, so not much. It doesn't look like a T-shirt, Kim, like your message before. It lost one arm, but that's still in place. It is now out of Winnipeg. I repeat, out of Winnipeg. This is the newest update as of right now. Yeah, so right now it's out, and we'll keep scrolling, but it's still in. So I'm going to put my earpiece in, guys, so I see you popping out. I'm assuming you guys were going to give me that. Mark, you could have just ran into the room and be like, it's done! You could have done that for me and saved me.
Yeah, no, I'm too busy looking at the radar just to see exactly what it's doing. You know, just it's fascinating to watch this one from a meteorological point of view. I'm going to point that out. I do enjoy watching these things. They're incredible to see.
Yeah.
They're incredible to sort of explore from the studio. I think this is the first time I've really been out here in the studio to take a look
Is there anything to say?
and get a chance to
Definitely
actually
seen all this
see
myself.
these storms from this point of view. With this storm, though, I was watching the rotation. Whoa. My lips are no longer working,
Yeah.
but the rotation itself sort of pulling around Winnipeg, but then it began to fill in. I noticed a big filling in that area that was nice and clear where we could see that big hook between the hook and between the core. That filled in. That immediately told me that we're into this storm maybe beginning to weaken a little bit, potentially.
It's morphing anyway.
Yeah, it's morphing into, you know, quite often we see as we get into the evening, it loses a little bit of steam, they morph into giant blobs. So
Yeah.
this is potentially what we're expecting, but we often sometimes see this cycling of them. So it may look like a big blob for a moment, but then we get, Kim, I believe we have continuing tornado warnings.
So most of them have dropped. We're talking about that. We still have Springfield, including Enola and Birds Hill Provincial Park. So those areas are still in. But the areas in the path, Dugald, Oak Bank, and Hazel Ridge. So Dugald, Oak Bank, and Hazel Ridge are still in the path of the storm.
Yeah, and this is there. You know, Tyler just pointed out. This is the area of rotation, sort of right in here. And again, there's that hook. Now that potentially may have been the area that is nice and clear. When I see that clear and there's that clearly defined hook, almost like a punch like this.
Right.
That's when that tells me, yep, that's very strong, likely producing a tornado. We don't necessarily know. We can't always say just because the radar's showing that. But that's that area may be filling in. We've got another area over here, closer to where I would have chased. This would have been likely my storm right here near Shoal Lake.
Yeah.
That would be sort of the best. My original forecast was not in Winnipeg. It was actually much closer to Brandon, Shoal Lake, these storms here. This one beginning, of course, this one I've seen a couple shots. I believe Braden's on this one. We're seeing some, wall clouds on that, nice big wall clouds.
We've got some video too to show.
If we've got video, I'd like to see that.
I want to show where it is from. I think we have some hail.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's from Winnipeg. Yeah.
Right, this was from Winnipeg a little bit earlier. Look at that hail just coming down, of course. Winnipeg was under a tornado warning, no longer under the tornado warning. I'm sure a lot of people are breathing a big sigh of relief as a result of that. And then we go over to East Winnipeg and look at this. This is impressive.
That is very impressive because you can get a really good sense of the motion. That is not sped up. That is real-time motion. You can tell by the cars moving past. That's real-time motion. Very easily to see that full rotation and that needle-like funnel cloud right in the center there. Now, what is interesting, this is almost what I would call a rope tornado. So it's not that classic big cone straight into the ground.
Right.
This one's a little needle of rope. So sort of has this motion to it. There it is. This is likely the same one, except that the other one, we were probably looking at it from this direction. This one, we're looking at it from this direction. So this would be, if you were looking the other way, it would be like this. But because we're looking at it, it's kind of like this. So that you're sort of.
I was looking at the trucks driving by it.
Yeah.
And I can just imagine the truck driver looking to their right out their passenger side window and seeing something like this. Like
Yes.
I don't know. I've been trying to get out of there as quickly as possible, which is what they look like they were doing.
Yeah, often though, the truckers, they've got somewhere to be.
Yeah.
It's like, yep, that's tornado. I got to get over there. Now,
Oh, man.
having said that, being in a vehicle in a tornado, one of the most dangerous places you can be.
Yeah.
But you do have the advantage that a vehicle can move. I know that sounds a bit weird, but if you were to see that tornado sort of in that spot, you know that if you keep going, you're going to be out of its path.
You rarely see anything that says a tornado is moving 70 kilometers per hour. It's usually around 40 or 50 kilometers per hour, and your vehicle can easily outrun something like that.
Yes, and I have seen at least one tornado moving at 0. And it was the Bennington tornado, and it was this massive tornado. It sat in one field for 45 minutes, just grinding away on this one field. It really did not like this one field, or really like this one field.
Yeah.
So you can get them moving at all different speeds. You can get very fast-moving tornadoes, but they tend to have difficulty forming when they're moving at 100 kilometers an hour, which I have seen. I have chased storms at 100 down the 401. forget it. You see them once, they're gone.
Yeah.
They tend to be moving a little faster in Ontario. Out in the prairies or out in Tornado Alley, they can move fairly quite a bit slower.
It's
So-
interesting you said, because I mean, when I'm getting those warnings coming in here, I'm not out chasing it, but it's usually between about 25 and 50 kilometers per
Yeah.
hour. I feel like that's about the average, but obviously
Yes.
there's the things that are not the average, so the
Yeah.
100K and the 0K, so all of it can happen, but I'm saying in general you could probably outrun it.
Yes, or the best thing you do, rather than trying to outrun it, turn away.
Go the
Keep in
opposite
mind,
direction.
tornadoes, the thunderstorms, the tornado has to be under the thunderstorm. It's just an expression of the energy of the thunderstorm itself, right? So if the thunderstorm is moving to the northeast, the tornado is moving to the northeast. So if you are concerned, if it's that, go south. Find the next exit, go south, let it pass you by.
Yeah,
get
it's
back
not
on the
gonna turn
road.
around and-
It's not going to turn around and chase you down, in a weird way. Tornadoes can sometimes move in weird directions. Those are unusual. This is a general case. This is just a general case. I'm not saying every tornado is going to move to the northeast. That's the general case. That's where it's going. So if
Here's
you can
some
move out of its
tips.
way,
Let's
yes.
let's see if this agrees with you.
Yes. Yeah, there it is. 90-degree angle away from the tornado's path.
Yeah.
If you can figure out what the tornado's path is, that's the kind of tricky thing. It's one thing to stand in the studio and say, oh, yes, just drive 90 degrees away. It's another thing entirely to be out there and sort of go, I'm not sure where this thing is going. And it's kind of nerve-wracking. I remember there were shots from the 401 of the air tornado. This was the one that started directly over top of my car. And I followed that one in until it dropped too many trees in front of me and I couldn't follow it anymore. Someone shot it from the 401 and it did look like it was coming straight onto the 401, but it wasn't. It was actually paralleling the 401. But
Oh.
it's very tricky to see that. So
Yeah.
the idea is if you see that, try and get, try to pick a direction away from it. Don't panic.
It's probably easier to see it on a radar,
Yes.
what direction it's
Yeah,
going.
it is. It's very
than,
easy.
than if you're looking at it with
Yeah.
your eyes.
Or if you've seen 100 tornadoes like me, I get a pretty good idea of what it's doing. But
Right.
I'm not going to be sitting in your car, likely. And if I am, you have other issues. But it's, again, the one thing I can say is please don't panic. If you see it, coming down directly down the road and you're on the 401 or something, it's okay to sort of stop and try and get off to the side. If it's coming down the highway at you, you've got nowhere to go. Yes, getting into a ditch, getting as low as possible is what you can do. Doesn't necessarily. That is a last ditch. I'm trying to save my life kind of situation. If the tornado's coming right down, you've got an exit. Take that exit, go south, get away from it.
Yep.
That's your best bet. I know this is, I'd love to be able to say this is what to do exactly in these situations, but that, again, keep in mind, tornadoes are incredibly rare. They are very, very rare.
Yeah,
I
you're
have
more
been-
likely to be impacted by powerful winds, by lightning. By heavy rain, causing flooding on roadways, which can be really problematic,
Yes.
or perhaps extreme low visibility if you're driving in a storm like that. There are a lot of dangers along the way before you ever can consider a
Yes.
tornado.
Yes.
It's good to know, and
Yes.
hopefully people keep it in the back of their minds if they're ever in that kind of situation. But yeah, the last place you want to be is in a car. Most people know what to do in their home or
Yes.
even in their apartment, what to do in the case of a tornado warning. But a car gets a little bit tricky.
Yeah, and I mean, I have been in a path of an EF5. Oh, there we go. There's that area of rotation again. Not as well formed as the other ones, right? That other ones had those big, you
You
could
couldn't
really
miss
see
them.
that clear hook.
Yeah.
This one, not as much, but here it is though. There's that little notch. There's that little notch. That's that inflow coming into there. So that tells me, just looking at this radar right here, that that's likely the inflow region because I happen to know that the winds on the surface are tending this direction. Right, so that is sort of flowing into the storm here, and you'll get that little notch on the radar, and that's what tells you, what makes it different than that one or that one. Sometimes you need a velocity scan. So this is showing the reflectivity. How much is it reflecting off of the stuff inside? Velocity will tell you how the things inside, the rain, the hail, and everything else is moving, and that gives you an idea of what you're looking at. So there again. So you can kind of see a little bit of that hook there, but again, tricky to see.
Yeah. Lots of dark colors in here,
Yes.
the darker reds, the
Yes.
darker purples. We're talking about heavy downpours, hail. We've seen evidence of hail within these storms as
Yeah,
well.
these storms have had over the weekend, all of these storms had very large hail in them. Prairies known for producing lots of hail.
Yeah.
Now, what is interesting is that in southern Ontario, we are seeing a tendency towards more and more hail in the storms around here. So we're seeing this tendency to very large hail happening in southern Ontario. So it may not just be the prairies. Climate change may be having an effect. It's just anecdotal, just beginning the research.
Observational.
Dr. David Sills and I are talking about it and sort of looking at, there's some potential there that this might be something we look at in the future.
And because of social media, we have a better understanding of that. People, when they get hail, I know especially in southern Ontario, they're a little more used to it in the prairies, but you're going to see a million videos of it online. You're going to see photos, you're going to see videos. People get very excited because they don't see it very often. You know, it's rare, but now, as you mentioned, in southern Ontario, if we're seeing more hail, you're probably going to know it because people will report it, and it's just because of the population.
Yes. Oh, there we go. Oh, this is again, absolutely classic. This is this storm. This is again, there's that hook. The other one we couldn't see. This, Tyler, am I correct in that? Yes, that's, again, there's, two areas of rotation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one's the stronger one? The one to the south?
Right now.
Okay.
Oh, they're both strong.
They're both strong. Okay. So we have the potential for a tornado here and potential for tornado down here. If these are both strongly rotating areas, very classic on some of these storms. Well, often you'll have the strong rotation on this. This rotation begins to die off, and then this one takes over.
Right.
So you'll often have, when I'm chasing, I might be here watching this storm, but I have to watch over my shoulder for that handoff to the more southwesterly meso. And that's something you have to be very, very cognizant of. Because now, once I was south of it, now I'm not. Now I'm directly in the path, so I have to go south again.
Yeah, when you've got two, that makes it a lot harder, especially if you're up here, and this one's getting stronger.
Yes,
right?
And this is why, again, I like to sort of be down here because I can observe this one, and then I can also see the new one starting. And this actually happens in southern Ontario on a pretty regular basis. I'm watching the storm. I'd be sitting right here watching the storm, and then I'll look down towards the southwest, and I'll see the other one beginning as well. So it is possible to have them. It is possible to see it. But yes, this is definitely a dangerous situation. We're going to have to pay very close attention to these.
Yeah, we've got a few places still in tornado warnings. The city of Winnipeg no longer in. That's good news. Yellowhead, including Shoal Lake and Elphinstone, in one area in one warning, and then I believe, I don't know if it's Taché that's still in it. No, Springfield, I believe, is still in it, including Enola and Birds Hill Provincial Park. So this has been ongoing for, what, 4 hours maybe
at least,
now?
Yeah. It is kind of what we expected, and it's actually very similar to what I saw over the weekend, because I was out here. Like I was actually to the west, further, like just on the Saskatchewan border, and those ones, beautiful, like from chaser point of view, structural, absolutely beautiful structure. Very close to producing tornadoes a couple of times, but they didn't have the moisture. So the bases of the storms are very high, and they just couldn't get that good spin to give you right down to the ground. These ones, they're dealing with a bit more of a moisture, and I can immediately tell. We saw earlier, Tyler had a shot up where he showed the amount of rain that had fallen. I believe I saw 92 millimeters in and around the Winnipeg area.
Oh, we're going to bring it up here.
There it is, 92, 68. So this is the swath of the core of the one we've been watching. So there's where the tornado, or at least the rotations, are going through this area here. That's the core itself right there. And that 92 millimeters of rain. And when I was out there, a lot of this ground extremely soaking wet.
Oh yeah, already saturated.
Yes.
You get this on top of it. Now we're talking about a flood situation, especially when you get this kind of rain in a short period of time.
Yes.
You get 68 millimeters over 8 hours. It's not as bad.
Yeah.
You get 68 millimeters in 30 minutes or an hour. Now you're talking trouble.
Yeah, and downtown Toronto knows all about that.
Right.
We've
concrete
had,
and heavy rain all at once. That's going to lead to disaster.
Yeah. And again, there's the storm right there. I believe we're still under the tornado warning. So to see the tornado warning area in purple there.
Yeah.
And again, as Tyler's put, oh my goodness, is that the newest scan? Wow. Okay. So when we talk about a hook echo, that is a hook echo. That is a hook echo, right? Because then it looks like a fish hook.
Yeah.
This is the center of rotation. This is the center of rotation. When it takes on that shape, that gets my attention very quickly. Look at this, the dark purple here, dark purple here. That means a heavy rain, hail, definitely two cores moving in this direction. So this is I would say this is a fairly dangerous storm. I would love to be able to get to see from here to see what these look like, because this likely has a large wall cloud on it. This one likely as well, because I'm not seeing the, if you see the radar all the way around, you won't be able to see it. But
Right.
because it's like that, you probably can see it if you're sitting here. So someone in Vivian Station might be able to see that wall cloud sitting right there. If this isn't producing a tornado itself.
Yeah, and if we know already that there are storm chasers on these storms, and it's likely that if they're anywhere near this, they are going to see something.
Yes.
And we likely may see photos or videos a little bit later. Of course, we don't encourage you to get anywhere near a situation like this. We've noticed that this storm develops quickly.
Yes.
The radar might not look like this 15 minutes ago, and then suddenly we get that strong hook echo, and then you've got yourself a problem. That's why tornado watches are issued first. Make sure you know that a tornado warning could happen at any time, and then the tornado warnings are issued, and that means, okay, it's time to take this seriously, to get indoors. Either it's been seen on radar, meteorologists are like, okay, like what you just said, there's a rotation on this, there's a hook echo. That means you need to be inside. That means a tornado warning is going to be issued. Or if a trained spotter sees a tornado and reports it, or they get video evidence from a trained spotter or someone else, because sometimes that's it. Someone at Environment Canada says, okay, that's a tornado or close enough, we're going to issue the warning.
Now, often on social media has been kind of an amazing tool that we've been able to use. Hashtag ON storm for Ontario storm, hashtag MB storm for Manitoba, SK storm for Saskatchewan, AB storm for Alberta, and Environment Canada will monitor those. And they will take a look. They will see what it is.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily going to take every single one seriously. They have they have to sort of make sure everything is correct, because we have seen a lot of misinformation, let's just say.
Yeah, that can easily happen. There are some bad actors out there. And I want to say too that sometimes people say to us, why haven't you issued a warning? We've got this storm going. And it's because only Environment and Climate Change Canada can issue that warning. We can tell you about the warning, we can communicate the warning, we can send out the alerts, but only the government agency can issue warnings. We can't do that.
Yeah. Now this is classic. I love this. Thank you, Charlie. You're amazing.
Okay, talk about the difference
between.
This
is towards and away. Is this Minot radar? So this is the U.S. So the radar system. The radar is probably way down here in Minot.
Yes.
It's French. I mean, I want to say Minot.
Yes. Minot.
But Minot. So this is away from the radar. This is towards the radar. So when you see green, it's moving towards. Yes, there we go. And then away. So that immediately tells me there's that rotation. There it is, right there. Away, towards. And that tells me in the northern hemisphere, 99.9% of tornadoes rotate counterclockwise.
That's right.
So
and you've got it's always the red and the green.
Red and the green.
Looking at this.
Now, just because I often have to, my wife often, she's been learning radar because she used to go chasing with me all the time, and she often says, "Oh, there's red and green. Like over here, there's some red and some green, beside each other right here. Like, is that something?" No, it's not.
They have to be in a very specific.
Yes, you're looking for those concentrated areas, bright red, bright green, bright red, bright green. Now, this one's a little further away, so it tells me this is maybe not as strong. It's when they're right tight in each other and they're bright red, bright green, that's when we have a problem.
And it's literally one north, one south, or
Generally,
can they be closer together?
It depends on where you're getting the radar. So if the radar was here, it would have a different. The colors would sort of be in a different orientation. So you really have to not only look at what the rotation is, you have to look at what radar you're looking at. Because I have been confused before when I've been looking at something and gone, "Oh, there's no rotation on that," and then one of my chaser buddies will be like, "Dude, you're looking at Kansas radar. You're looking at the wrong one." So, right, now that I reorient. So this is sort of what we're looking for. Again, bright red, bright green, fairly tight in towards each other. This is just one product. There are many, many different radar products that we can look at. So this is just one tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
We're not going to show all the other ones because some of the more complicated, like correlation coefficients.
Yeah, people don't need that.
People don't need that, but it does say something to trained radar meteorologist will be able to take a look at that and say, I think there's this is definitely got a tornado right here. Oh, there we go.
Okay. All right, so what is new? Okay, so right now the municipality of Harrison Park, including, let's see, I'm going to mispronounce this probably, Onanol, Sandy Lake, and Nendale. So all of these areas are in it. So the new is the municipality of Harrison. We also have Rossburn municipality, including another place that's going to take me a second, Waimea Capo Reserve. Okay, so Waimea Capo Reserve is under that tornado warning, and that's part of the Rossburn municipality. So again, the rural municipality of Harrison and also the Rossburn municipality. So those areas are currently under tornado warnings. I'm going to check to see if I can see who's in the path. Okay, so Oakburn, Strathclair, and Menzie. This storm is moving northeast at 35 kilometers per hour, and again, possibly producing a tornado, and that is why the Environment and Climate Change Canada have now issued for these areas, which are now in the warning.
Yeah, quite often, Kim, we'll see the storms really strengthen up and really begin to produce tornadoes as we get closer to evening, because we have sort of a mid-level in the atmosphere jet, as we call it, the 850 jet, 850 millibar jet, and that's when that really starts to get going a little higher up in the atmosphere, and that often is a trigger to strengthen these storms up, kick them up, get them going, and we often see that as we get into the evening time period. So quite often, we won't see the tornado. The storms will just be doing not too much, maybe a little bit of rotation in there, maybe even producing some weak tornadoes, but as an evening period hits, that's when things can really take off, and that is thanks to that 850 jet of air that's likely coming in like this.
I got the other area too, so
yep.
I should say. So I didn't say this earlier, but Broken Head, including Beausejour and Garson, are under a tornado warning. Locations in the path include Dugald, Cloverleaf, and St. Ouens. So all of those areas as well have to be aware. Again, there's two areas, the Broken Head and Springfield area, and then we have it around Rossburn municipality and the municipality of Harrison Park. So yeah, a lot of tornado warnings. These cells are really getting ramped up. We thought that maybe by this time in the evening we get more linear storms. We see less of these discrete cells. We think that, oh, maybe some of the energy of the day would start to dissipate a little bit.
We may see that. I mean,
it still could happen.
Yeah, the original, some of my original forecasting, and this is just me. I do not represent our. This is just from me doing it, not our Weather Network meteorologists. They are much better than I am at this. These ones, I thought these would go what we call linear fairly quickly. So, one storm goes up and a whole bunch of them go up all at once.
Yeah.
What is interesting to me as a meteorologist, that these storms that are tending to produce the strongest rotation are way over in the east, a little bit closer to where that jet was sort of coming up. And maybe giving us that little extra wind shear on this side. So that combination of wind shear and moisture over on sort of the west or the east side of Winnipeg. And that is interesting. I do expect, though, that the storms are going to begin to form a line. I think we're starting to see a little bit of it coming out of the Dakotas and beginning to move up into the prairies. And that is going to be that gigantic bow echo that we're expecting, or that gigantic shelf type. Likely to see a gigantic shelf cloud on it.
Can we interrupt you?
Yes, please do.
Is this a new one, Manny? Okay, yeah, this is from earlier today. This is Storm Chaser Braden Moore, so in the field. Let's take a look.
Currently on this storm southwest of Shoal Lake, Manitoba, we have a big occlusion overhead. This is rapidly rotating here, and we have a new circulation forming off to our east here. This is a very dangerous storm. It has just gone tornado warned. Make sure to heed those watches and warnings as they're issued ahead of this storm. It is very dangerous. There's also likely some big hail associated with this, tons of lightning. But yes, that risk for tornadoes is increasing. This big occlusion, you can see it's wrapping here. We have RFD spinning around and wrapping around this occlusion. So this is where we could see a tornado form. Make sure to seek shelter if ominous skies approach. For the Weather Network, I'm Braden Morso.
Okay. Braden doing a great job out there. He's been out there.
I wish I was out there too.
I know you do.
I ran into him the other day. I ran into him on Saturday and Sunday.
Not literally, I hope.
No, I literally waved at him as we went this way, he went that way.
Well, this is also what Braden captured. So this is in Oakburn, Manitoba. Can you see it? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little hard. I have to sort of step back.
It's easier to look at it that way.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Well, I'm going to show you, like, it's off me right now, but you can definitely see that
the
funnel.
cone. Yeah.
Earlier, we saw that very laminar, very smooth-sided. This one, not quite as smooth-sided, but still likely a funnel cloud. It's in the right spot. Likely has rotation. Very hard to tell from a still picture. Would have loved to have seen video of that.
Yeah.
And that, because that can really confirm whether it's doing this or not.
Right.
You can have all kinds of what we call false funnels. It happens all the time. And you look at it and go, oh, that's a tornado. No, because it's not spinning. Even though it's all the way down. I've seen it
all the way
in
down,
Ontario.
not
Happens
rotating.
all the time in Ontario. Because we have so much moisture in Ontario, because you add the Great Lakes moisture in there, we get all kinds of anomalous clouds that sort of point down.
Yeah.
And quite often people say, that's a tornado. No. Looking for the spin. Gotta have that spin. Don't have that spin, not a tornado.
Not a tornado.
We call it a scary looking, SLC, scary looking cloud.
A scary looking cloud. Let's bring in, I was going to do some kind of intro that would have not been very nice, but let's bring in Chris Potter, who's not scary at all. I can see his face in the preview. I was like, oh, okay. Let's bring in meteorologist Chris Potter, who's so far from scary, so far from scary. We don't know, okay? Chris,
I'm staying out of this.
We've been going a long time here, and our mouths are no longer working, but we appreciate you.
Take a break. Take a break.
You got this?
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, take a break. All right.
Okay.
So I'm just basically going to pick off exactly where they left off. I mean, obviously, we're still seeing a lot of rotation on there. Tornado warned storms still in place. Once again, Winnipeg, 830,000+ people in place. That was in place. Now it's not. To the east and to the northeast. The rotation, I will admit, in this area is showing signs of weakening, but it's still in place and picking up in a few areas, little tiny vortices, if you will. So within that line starting to take shape, we are starting to notice that take shape, and we're still seeing the potential of tornadoes. So we're still not done with the tornado warnings just yet. Be patient as we shift gears, as we've been talking about, shift to that linear, and we're going to start to see that over the next hour or so. But as this happens, widespread heavy rain is expected, widespread potential of large damaging hail, straight line winds as opposed to rotational, but more widespread. You got to think of it like this. So how bad will it be, I guess is the question. Well, it depends on your location, but given this particular model, and given the fact that we're kind of now casting, look at what's happening right now, which areas are seeing it, this is going to be the line that extends in. Main line moves into Manitoba, stretches once again back in towards Winnipeg, straight line winds, large hail, power outages possible. If you're going to be out there on the roadways, please don't. It's obviously going to be dark at that time, and that means reduced visibilities just from darkness. Then you combine significant rainfall, obviously hydroplaning, ponding, pooling, etc., and flooding. So, I mean, some of the low-lying areas, flood-prone areas, especially down towards, let's say, southeastern Saskatchewan. That area was absolutely clobbered with heavy rainfall 2 rounds Saturday and Sunday. So once again, okay, there it goes. It almost froze on me, folks. So that's what we're looking at over the next little while. We'll go through once again the large picture. This is what we're currently dealing with. This is current. Yellow identifies areas that are favorable for the development of significant thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms. Orange represents still the severe thunderstorm potential, added risk of rotation. Pink, or purple in this case, represents areas with tornado warnings. And you can see south of the border, this is a large swath, significant rotation being picked up. So I think that's probably going to be a good space to start once again. What's going to be moving in from the Dakotas. And once again, this is what's going to develop that line, straight line winds. Still the risk of a few tornadoes within that, but that will last minutes. This is going to last through the overnight. It will likely last into the pre-dawn hours. The lightning is still going to be there. So this is literally going to take us through the overnight, but it's one of those things that it won't produce the same kind of impacts. We're only dealing with the tornado warnings right now, but we're still going to be dealing with, once again, I'll make this point clear, severe thunderstorms. So even if you didn't have a tornado warning through the weekend, and yes, no official confirmation, today, this evening so far has been rather ripe. We've seen a lot of videos, a lot of photography, and showing at least funnels, if not a few tornado potential. Once again, if you find yourself in a warning over the next little while, take it seriously. I mean, you're only going into the basement or taking shelter. That's not going to take away from your evening. My suggestion, if you're a parent with kids, I had to scare some kids when I sent out a tornado warning in my neighborhood in Barrie almost 5 years ago, and some of them are still a little scared. My son's daycare was hit by a tornado. He's over it now. He loves thunderstorms. In fact, anytime there's a thunderstorm, he goes, "Are we going to get thunder?" I say, "Yep." Are we going to get a tornado? No, because the point, once again, tornadoes are indeed rare. Tornado warnings sometimes aren't, but you take it seriously. This is once again another area of explosive generation. We've seen that south of the border. This is once again the visible satellite along with the lightning, so that's still carrying a punch. Just looking at the visible satellite structure, I mean, obviously it's moving into environment. There's still instability. You can kind of see very slowly, just a little few penetrating tops, evident that there's still thunderstorm development north of this big line. So once again, this is just something that's going to continue. Once again, the rotation across Winnipeg, that has eased a little bit, but there still is some little minor areas. So that's something that could redevelop as it progresses towards the northeast. The later we get, the lesser that potential is there. Once again, there's still severe thunderstorm warned storms. This one, once again, has the rotation still on it. That still looks ripe and juicy, once again continuing to progress north. I'm still just looking from the visible satellite to, oh, yep, you can clearly see just starting to pick up. I'm going to switch it to analysis mode right now. We'll go on to the national radar. There we go. That's a little bit better. Yeah, so we are starting to see individual, whether they're supercells. I will pass it back to Mark and Kim, and I'll actually be able to look. But, I mean, one thing's for certain, we are still dealing with widespread severe weather potential. There still is areas within this large corridor that is not quite into it. I'm still looking, Mark and Kim, to see if that line really takes shape. We're seeing signs of it trying to take shape. I don't know. There's something that's not convincing me that it's going to react, judging by what's going on ahead of it. But one thing's for certain. I mean, everything did point to this becoming that straight line wind event, still a squall line, whatever you want to call it, still severe thunderstorms. Am I right, Mark?
Yeah.
You still have the potential. Regardless of tornado activity, you still could have flooding. You still could have power outages. It's still going to be rough out there on the roadways, and it's just continuing through the overnight.
I honestly think, Chris, that just taking a look at the radar there, I think that it's beginning to form up now. It is kind of close to what we expected.
Missing a few elements, just a few.
Yeah, but as we get into that overnight, Winnipeg's been through it today, and you might be in Winnipeg going, oh, we're done. Everything's done. We're good. Middle of the night, boom. You might get woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning with nature's own alarm clock, which happened to me at least twice when I was out there. I got woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
So you think thunder versus wind? Because sometimes the wind can do it.
The answer is yes.
Yes, all of it.
all of it. Thunder you're most likely going to hear before you get the winds, but those winds can hit really fast, especially if that line is as strong. Now, quite often with these lines, they weaken during the night because we don't have the heating, don't have the daytime heating.
We
so we
lose the energy.
We lost that energy. Now, what is interesting, sometimes, I love these nights in Ontario, you walk outside at midnight later, and it feels like a tropical night. I love those nights.
Yes.
But that is fuel for the thunderstorms. So if thunderstorms get going in that, even though we don't have the heating, there's still energy there. Mm-hmm. Keep that in mind, so they could keep going. So this may be the situation we're looking at here with this as it comes in the middle of the night. Again, not expecting big, strong, supercell type tornadoes. Having said that, I am going to qualify that a little bit, that of course it can happen. Pay attention. We'll try to bring you as much information as we can throughout the night.
And keep in mind, too, that even after a storm has moved through, lightning can still happen.
Yes.
So you might think, okay, we're good. I want to get outside. I want to assess the damage, maybe, if there's been winds or heavy rain. And, and it's still warm outside.
Yeah.
But we know that electricity can still happen in the air.
Well, quite often, or one of the rules of thumb we say is after the last rumble of thunder, wait 30 minutes. You're going to be safe.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily mean you that is sort of what
That's
will
rule
keep you
of
safe.
thumb.
Rule of thumb,
but not 100%.
I have been well out in front of a storm, way out in front of a storm, and nearly been struck by lightning. One of the scariest ones I ever had was at night. I was shooting lightning at night,
yes.
often to get some amazing stuff.
Thinking you're safe.
Thinking I was safe. I was watching the radar. That storm was Point Clark, and I was down by Flesherton. That's how far away I was. It was very long distance.
Yeah.
I was taking a picture, and all of a sudden I heard a crackle coming off of the telephone pole beside me. And I had enough time to do this put
Wow.
my hands over my ears, and try to dive underneath the Weather Network car, and the lightning hit the pole right beside me.
Jeez.
That is about as scary as it gets. And that one, I was like, yep, I'm back in the car. But keep in mind, I was really far away.
Yeah, and that's what we're
Yeah.
telling people. Yeah, it doesn't, even if there's not a drop of rain on you, lightning can still happen.
Yeah, absolutely. All the
Yeah,
time.
the storm can be far away.
Now-
So let's talk about this hook
Yes.
because you can't miss it. We're
Yes.
looking. I think everybody who's been watching this broadcast now knows what to look for in a severe thunderstorm if there's potential
Yes.
for tornadoes.
Now, one thing I do want to point out, though, we have there's our radar shot. This has to be combined with a look at the velocity. We can't just look at this and say this is a hook.
Right.
Because a lot of storms, just looking at the reflectivity, so we're just looking at the rain and the hail that's falling. That's all. It's bouncing off. We need this.
Yeah.
This is the velocity. This is what we call Doppler radar. A whole bunch of physics in there, which I'm not going to get into because I don't want to put our entire audience to sleep. But basically, what we can tell, or the information we can get out of there, is which way those little bits and pieces, like the rain and the hail, are moving within the storm. So red away from the radar, green towards the radar. That tells you that there's a bit of rotation. It can also tell if you get a very strong green band or a very strong red band, that can tell you that wind, there's straight line winds coming at you. So there's multiple bits of information that we can get from these velocities, from these Doppler radar scans.
Yeah.
And this is something to watch for. It's something I often watch for, and I try to get into the brightest red all the time, or the brightest green. So
Of course you do.
This is, yeah.
Let's take a look at some video from earlier today. I think we have a little bit of hail video because we've been talking about the hail with these storms that has happened time and again as it moves through. And in Winnipeg, oh, there it was. Winnipeg at one point under tornado warning. Thankfully, that tornado warning has dropped for the city. We get very nervous when it happens in a major center. And Craig capturing the hail as well in Winnipeg there. Same thing here, I believe. So not only hail, but heavy downpours as well. About 17,000 customers have lost power. I believe that was the last number I had in Manitoba, likely as a result of these storms. Straight line winds, rotating winds, either way they're going to cause damage. You can have, we talked a lot about that derecho that happened a few years ago.
Yes, I was in that.
Yes, and I was here doing very powerful winds, enough to do a lot of damage. So people, I think first think a tornado, number one, obviously very damaging, very scary, but straight line winds can be just as damaging.
I usually put it at anywhere between 100 to 120 kilometers an hour is usually sort of the threshold for damage. Some of these derecho winds and some of these straight line winds can get up to 130 to 140 kilometers an hour, so we can definitely see damage. Often with these very long lines, we get what we call QLCS tornadoes, quasi-linear convective system tornadoes.
The ones that take off from the line.
Yeah,
right?
or the ones that are actually buried in the line itself. And you often look for these little notches on radar, and you can often see them. There's somewhere sort of right in there. That's something we look at when we have a big line. This is a little bit more obvious. Holy cow. Look at that. There's that hook that looks like a very strong hook right there. I was just taking a quick look at a little bit of radar. Tyler, I believe we've got, where are the areas of rotation at this point? Because I think I can pick them out. I think there's one right sort of in this area right here is my guess. There we go. Yeah. So there's this one. It doesn't look like quite a strong rotation at this point because again, they look like fairly far away from each other. Now, keep in mind that this radar is actually coming out of way down in the Dakotas. This is, and I'm going to say it wrong again. Minot.
You got it.
Because I want to say Minot, and
Yeah.
it's not. It's Minot, and that's so that we're looking at fairly high up in the storm. Even at the lowest radar tilt, you're still looking at fairly far up the storm. So we can't tell, right down in the base of it how strong that rotation is. But definitely, it definitely is telling me there's some large rotation and there's some overall rotation. Storm is definitely still a supercell. Something we're going to have to pay attention to. Because keep in mind, just because we have a supercell, or we don't have a tornado, supercells still produce. They're the strongest storms, can produce the largest hail, strongest winds, lots and lots of lightning. I've been down in Greensburg, Kansas at night last year, and the lightning was strobing. There was so much lightning that it was literally like
And it looks like
constant flash.
A supercell looks like a UFO from
It
the
can
ground,
look like
doesn't
yes,
it? Yeah.
yes.
I mean, those are the ones that we see that are so dramatic.
Yeah.
Now you get that with lightning in it. And
Yeah. Oh, it's something to behold. I mean, and this is one of the reasons I like to go out and see these things in the field. Yes, they are dangerous. Yes, they're deadly. I like to be able to get that information. Say, if you're in studio, I like to get that information back to you, Kim, so that you can say, and we've been trying to do this even today. Like, okay, we have this radar. What does the storm look like? What does the storm look like? If I'm underneath that, if I'm sitting right here, I can say, oh, Kim, I'm seeing a rotating wall cloud right here. In that hook, yes, definitely there. This one, again, very strong. It does look like it's got a strong hook on it. I do know that there were multiple areas of rotation in there. There's your hail. Classic look to a supercell storm. Again, rotation. Quite often you're not seeing two areas of rotation in the storm. And we have another one over in this area.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
There's our other tornado warning.
There's our other one. This one, a little bit more linear. We're not seeing that. I'm not seeing a strong hook on there. But definitely, and again, there's that big hail sitting right in there. And that, if
And
you're
Shoal Lake is where Braden Morrisville was. And we had that video.
I guarantee you he's been following it up to here. The only thing is we're now getting into very difficult areas, some very difficult chase areas as you get sort of further up, closer to the lakes. You're getting into a couple of the provincial parks there. And
okay. So now we're talking about trees.
Now we could get into trees as we get a little further north, up closer to Dauphin in that area here. You can actually see a little bit of the territory has gone from nice and flat to into mountains and trees and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, plains are much easier.
Yes.
You can see that storm from hundreds of kilometers away potentially.
Quite often, yes.
Quite often. But trees is just as dangerous as an urban center almost.
Yes,
when it's about where am I, where is that storm, and am I underneath it?
My very first tornado was in Guelph. And I actually followed it all the way out to Campbellville, where it tore the roof off of a barn. I saw it for about a minute and a half until I watched it rip the roof off the barn.
Wow.
Right? Because I was in the trees all the time going down the 401. I could see, I knew the tornado was potentially right there.
Yeah.
And once I got over to Campbellville, I watched it actually go off of Rattlesnake Point and disappear. But you couldn't see it. It was what I call tree canyons. So the escarpment quite often will produce tornadoes. You can often see tornadoes within the escarpment, but they're extremely difficult to see and very dangerous because you might not see the tornado until there's trees flinging across the road at you. So this is why easier to see out here, but Southern Ontario can be extremely dangerous when it comes to tornadoes because you can't see them until the last moment.
And that's why provincial parks can be so dangerous as well. And not only the fact that you're surrounded by trees, but you may not be in a strong shelter if you're in a tent, for example. If you're getting really nice weather. But this has been a week. It's not like this is a surprise. I feel like if you're an outdoors person, you have to be aware of the weather. If you're going on vacation, if you're going camping, this has been, even since last week, we've been in this volatile situation across the prairies. We're hotter than average. Temperatures have been in the high 20s, 30 degrees. We have more humidity than normal because it's coming up from the Gulf. We've got that tropical moisture. And so we knew the ingredients were there. All we needed was a trigger, and we knew that was very likely.
Now, keep in mind, or just to keep Canada in a sense that these systems are hit the prairies. Well, guess where they're going? They are going to make their way into Ontario.
Yeah.
Now the question, is it going to stay in Northern Ontario, or is it going to come down to Southern Ontario? These systems may be moving. There you go. There's our look at a little longer range. So there we are. We're coming into Ontario. This is a lot of trees. So if the tornadoes are up here, they tend to hit two moose and a goose. However, the latest research, some of the research that the Northern Tornadoes Project, the Canadian Severe Storms Laboratory has been finding out, there's a lot of very, very strong tornadoes in this that we just didn't know about until we got satellites. So Dave is beginning to fill in the blank that's right here, and some very strong, extraordinarily strong tornadoes. So if you are out there, you can a lot of people camping, a lot of small, like Sioux Lookout, Red Lake. These areas can be hit by very strong tornadoes. Just because you are in the Northern Ontario does not mean that you are safe from tornadoes.
No, I mean, I've been here obviously for years, and tornado warnings happen all the time in Northern Ontario. But again, we're in these areas that perhaps no one lives. very few people live. Maybe someone didn't see it, again, because of these forested areas. But I know that those warnings, they are frequent, almost as frequent as the prairies.
Yeah, and now, as we get into sort of the height of the summer, as we're starting to look into July, late June, July, August, we are starting to see the peak of tornado season for southern Ontario. There are 2 areas of Tornado Alley in Canada. One is the areas that we've been looking at over here in the prairies. The other spot is southern Ontario. We see a lot of tornadoes in southern Ontario.
Yep.
They're hard to see. They're quite often weak, but we have had some very, very strong ones. In 1985, EF4, well, F4, because we didn't have the EF scale at the time. A couple of years ago, EF2 in Barrie. We've seen them down in Windsor. That was, I believe, an EF2. A very, very strong tornado came through Detroit.
We've seen them in eastern Ontario.
We see them in eastern Ontario. So this, this is brilliant. I love this. You can really see this. There's the tornado alley here, but look at how dense the locations are in southern Ontario. And one of the big reasons is these giant bodies of water.
Oh.
Yes, just incredible.
Yeah.
I feel like we have Chris Potter. We're going to be
Chris?
slowly
hello?
wrapping down, but I want to I want to bring Chris Potter in one more time before we wrap things up to take a look at the radar, the warnings, and then we'll come back to say goodbye. How's that?
Yes. sounds
Okay,
good.
Chris, you take it away.
It's a plan.
Okay.
All right, thanks, guys.
See you in a moment.
Yeah, thank you. And obviously still dealing with some tornado warnings. Once again, the point that I'm going to make is, we're still dealing with severe weather. Whether or not they rotate or not is kind of not the point. The point is severe weather, significant rainfall. Here's one map, a few areas, Winnipeg and vicinity, 20 to almost 80 millimeters of rainfall, all thanks to the near stationary nature of these and how they're building. One area of the storm moves in, it continues to build in the back, it remains stationary, so flooding is definitely a potential. Pardon me. With tornado warned storms, obviously you take it seriously. Rotation is being picked up by the radar. There have been numerous sightings of at least funnel clouds, if not a few brief touchdowns, and this is basically what we're looking at. Still the potential for a brief touchdown or two for the next hour or so. Then it really translates to severe thunderstorms producing damaging hail, strong winds. Once again, we've been talking about this changeover, if you will, to more of a linear. And this will happen gradually depending on which location we're talking about. It might happen a little bit quicker to the one moving into southwestern Manitoba right now. That's what everything pointed out to earlier. But as it coalesces, it joins up, if you will, this huge cluster of thunderstorms will kind of take over. So the rotational energy basically gone through the overnight. Frequent lightning is definitely a potential. I'm expecting it. It's going to be a light show. With the light show moving across the region, as that happens, you're going to have some heavy rainfall, the potential of hail. The reports south of the border right now, we have seen straight line winds as this line moves in above 109 kilometers an hour. That's what I just recently looked at. And I'll actually show you some of these storm reports. I'll put them on for you. South of the border. And we are going to go back to you guys. I'll try to pick it up just before we end with the national radar. Come on. There we go. So all this stuff down here, some of these storm reports, 97 kilometers an hour, almost 110. And this is once again going to continue to move into southwestern Manitoba.
Chris Potter, appreciate all of your insight, all of your experience covering these storms. Bean Fate is now in that tornado warning. So Saskatchewan, we had recently added Coalfields, including Bean Fate and North Portal. So we are going to continue to follow these storms on our TV channel, the Weather Network. Of course, I know we're going to come to an end of our live stream. Mark Robinson, wow, your experience has been invaluable. You're usually out chasing these storms, and I appreciate when you're out there. Couldn't be out there for these ones, but being in the studio, I love just getting your perspective on everything.
Yeah, it is interesting to be in the studio because quite often I'm listening to you from far away, and half the time you can't hear me because I've lost signal. I'm not losing signal with you other than my voice slowly cracking.
I had to bring you in here so I couldn't lose your signal at all. It has been quite the night, of course. If warnings are issued where you live, please take heed, especially if it's a tornado warning. Get indoors, get low, get safe. We want you to be safe, and we'll continue to watch these storms here at the Weather Network.
Definitely be watching.
We're just ending our live stream. Thank you to everybody behind the scenes for your help as well, and thank you to our audience.